The Ashworth family's annual summer dinner was always an exercise in subtle cruelty, but this year they'd decided to abandon subtlety altogether. I watched my mother-in-law, Victoria Ashworth, delicately sip her wine while delivering another perfectly aimed barb. "Of course, dear," she said, eyeing my simple black dress. "Not everyone understands the responsibilities that come with our name. Some people," her gaze lingered meaningfully on me, "simply aren't bred for it. I'm Isabella Chen, though the Ashworths prefer to pretend my maiden name doesn't exist. To them, I'm just the unsuitable wife their youngest son Alexander chose instead of the socially acceptable debutante they'd picked out for him." "Mother," Alex warned, squeezing my hand under the table, "not tonight." "Oh, but we must discuss it," Victoria pressed on, encouraged by the nodding heads of various aunts and cousins around the massive dining table. "The Ashworth name has been prominent in Boston society for 200 years. We have certain standards to maintain." I took a slow sip of water, thinking about the encrypted email I'd received that morning from my private banking team. The merger had finally gone through, another technology company added to my quietly growing empire. The Ashworths, with their old money and social pretensions, had no idea that their common daughter-in-law was one of the wealthiest women in the country. "Perhaps," Victoria continued, warming to her theme, "it's time we discussed the prenuptial agreement again, to protect the family interests." Alex stiffened beside me. "We've been married for 2 years, Mother. That ship has sailed. It's never too late to protect oneself from unfortunate choices." I caught my father-in-law, Richard Ashworth, studying me with something close to pity. He'd always been the quieter partner in Victoria's social machinations, though no less convinced of the family's superiority. "Victoria," he said softly, "perhaps this isn't the best time." "No, Richard, it needs to be said. The girl clearly married Alexander for our money and position. We must take steps." I couldn't help but laugh, earning sharp looks from around the table. The Ashworth fortune, while respectable, was barely a rounding error compared to my net worth. Not that they knew that, yet. "Something amusing, dear?" Victoria's voice could have frozen champagne. "Just appreciating the irony," I replied carefully. Alex and I had discussed when and how to reveal my true financial status. Looked like the time had chosen itself. "Irony?" Victoria's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. "What would someone like you know about irony?" "Someone like me?" I smiled, reaching for my phone. "You mean someone who graduated summa cum laude from MIT? Someone who filed their first technology patent at 19? Or someone who founded one of the most successful private technology companies in the world?" The dining room went very quiet. Even the servants hovering near the walls seemed to hold their breath. "What are you talking about?" Victoria demanded. "You work in computers or something?" "Something like that," I agreed, pulling up my private banking app. "Alex, darling, would you like to tell them, or should I?" Alex grinned. He'd been waiting for this moment since we met. "By all means, love. I think it's time." I turned my phone around, displaying the banking statement that had made Victoria's wine-drinking hands tremble. "As of this morning, my personal net worth is just over $3 billion. That's not counting the company's value or real estate holdings." The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spreading an expensive Bordeaux across the pristine tablecloth. That's impossible," she whispered. "Not impossible," Alex said proudly, "just carefully hidden. Did you really think I married Bella without knowing exactly who she was?" But, Victoria looked frantically around the table, as if seeking support from the equally stunned family members. "If this is true, why didn't you say anything? Why let us think?" "Let you think I was a gold digger?" I finished for her. "Because I wanted to see who you really were. All of you. How you'd treat someone you thought was beneath you." Richard had gone very pale, no doubt remembering all the condescending financial advice he'd tried to give me over the past 2 years. "The prenup you're so worried about?" I continued. "Alex insisted on one, to protect me from any claims on my company, though he didn't really need to. The family lawyers made sure of that." "Family lawyers?" Victoria's voice had risen an octave. "What family? You said you were an only child, that your parents had passed." "They did," I confirmed, "but the Chin family isn't without resources, or connections." In fact, I checked my phone again, enjoying this moment perhaps more than I should. "We just acquired controlling interest in Ashworth Industries' main competitor." That bombshell hit Richard hard. He actually grabbed the table for support. "Anderson Tech? That was you?" "Through a series of shell companies, yes. I thought it might come in handy if your family's attitudes didn't improve." Alex was trying not to laugh now, We'd planned this revelation carefully, though we'd expected to wait until Christmas, but Victoria's latest attack had accelerated the timeline. Would anyone like to see the company portfolio? I offered innocently, or perhaps the real estate holdings? I believe we just acquired that building on Beacon Street that the Ashworth Foundation was hoping to buy. Victoria's face had progressed through several interesting colors, finally settling on a sort of grayish-white. All this time, you've been watching. I finished for her, learning exactly what kind of family I married into, and making contingency plans. Contingency plans? Richard found his voice. What does that mean? It means, Alex answered, that Bella's company now controls enough of your competitors to make things very difficult for Ashworth Industries, if necessary. The implications of that statement rippled around the table. The Ashworth fortune, while old, was heavily dependent on their company's continued success, a fact that everyone present was suddenly, painfully aware of. But we're family, Victoria protested weakly. Are we? I asked quietly. You've spent 2 years telling me I'm not worthy of your name, that I'm common, beneath you. At what point did you consider me family? The silence that followed was broken only by the gentle clearing of a throat. Harrison, the family's ancient butler, appeared at my elbow with a fresh glass of water. Pardon the interruption, Mrs. Ashworth, he said, emphasizing my married name slightly, but there's a call for you from Hong Kong. Something about the merger? I smiled at Harrison, who, I suspected, had known exactly who I was all along. Nothing escaped his notice in this house. Thank you, Harrison. Please tell Mr. Wong I'll call him back shortly. We're just having a little family discussion about worth. Victoria flinched at the word. Around the table, various aunts, uncles, and cousins were frantically Googling my name on their phones, no doubt finding the carefully curated public information about my company and assets. Oh my God, Cousin Margaret breathed. She's on the Forbes list. Has been for years. Top 50, Alex confirmed proudly, though she prefers to keep a low profile, usually. But your clothes, Victoria sputtered, gesturing at my simple dress. Your car, your lifestyle, what about them? I asked. Did you expect me to dress like a cartoon billionaire, flash my wealth around? Some of us prefer to be judged by who we are, not what we own. The irony of that statement, given the current situation, wasn't lost on me. Which is exactly why I fell in love with her, Alex added, while you were all focusing on her background, trying to find ways to exclude her. I was getting to know a brilliant, compassionate woman who cares more about innovation and progress than social status. Victoria turned to her son, betrayal written across her features. You knew? All this time, you let us make fools of ourselves? You did that quite well on your own, Mother, Alex replied coldly. Every snide comment, every social slight, every attempt to make Bella feel unwelcome, that was all you. Richard was still processing the business implications. Anderson Tech, the merger, that means you now control about 40% of your market, I confirmed, though that could change, depending on how things go from here. Are you threatening us? Victoria's shock was turning to anger. Not at all. I'm offering you a choice. We can move forward as a real family, putting the past behind us, or we can maintain our current relationship, both personal and professional. It's entirely up to you. That's blackmail. No, Mother, Alex interrupted. That's business, something our family claims to understand so well. I stood up, smoothing my common dress. I should take that call from Hong Kong, but before I do, let me be clear, I don't want or need your money, your social position, or your approval. I've been testing you, all of you, watching to see if there was any substance behind the Ashworth name you're so proud of. And? Richard asked quietly. And I'm disappointed, but not surprised. Fortunately for you, Alex takes after his grandmother, the one who built Ashworth Industries from nothing, while the rest of you were busy attending cocktail parties. That hit home. Alexandra Ashworth, Richard's mother, had indeed built the company, though the family preferred to focus on their older, less commercial history. Think about it, I continued. Take some time to decide what matters more, your social pretensions or your family's future. I'll be in my study when you're ready to talk. Harrison knows where to find me. As I left the dining room, I heard Victoria's shaking voice. Harrison, did you know about this? Madam, the butler replied with perfect dignity. I make it my business to know everything about the family I serve, including the fact that Mrs. Isabella's personal charitable foundation just endowed a wing at Boston Children's Hospital, in your name. I smiled as I climbed the stairs to my study. Harrison really did know everything. The next few hours brought a parade of Ashworth family members to my door, each trying to process this shift in the family dynamic. Cousin Margaret wanted to discuss tech startups. Uncle George had questions about international markets. Even Victoria's sister Eleanor admitted she'd always admired my quiet confidence. Finally, well past midnight, Victoria herself appeared. She looked older somehow, her social armor cracked. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why let us treat you that way when you could have?" "Could have what? Bought your respect? Proven my worth with a bank statement? That's not respect, Victoria, that's transaction." She sat heavily in one of the leather chairs. "We've been horrible to you." "Yes," I agreed, "you have. And now you control our company's future." "Your company's future was already in trouble," I pointed out. "Your competitors are more innovative, more adaptive. That's why they were vulnerable to acquisition. Would you be willing to help? Not for my sake, but for the employees, the people who depend on Ashworth Industries?" It was the first time I'd ever heard Victoria express concern for someone outside her social circle. Progress, of sorts. "That depends," I replied. "Are you willing to accept that the world has changed? That breeding and social status mean less than innovation and hard work? Do I have a choice?" "There's always a choice, Victoria. You can adapt and grow, or you can cling to the past and fade away, just like your company." She was quiet for a long moment. "The hospital wing, why?" "Because that's what real power is for. Not for making others feel small, but for making the world a little better." "Will you teach me?" The question seemed to surprise her as much as me. "About the company, about business today, if I'm willing to learn?" I studied her carefully. "Are you willing to learn about more than just business? About family? About worth that isn't measured in dollars or social status?" I want to try, for Alex's sake, if nothing else." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was a start. "Then yes, I'll teach you. We can start tomorrow, if you'd like." After she left, Alex found me still in the study. "That went well," he observed, settling onto the couch beside me. "Better than expected," I agreed, "though your mother may have an ulterior motive, saving the company." "Does it matter? She's willing to learn. That's more than I ever expected." He was right. Of course, change had to start somewhere, even if that somewhere was self-interest. Over the next few months, Victoria surprised everyone by throwing herself into learning about modern business practices. She even started attending technology conferences, dragging a reluctant Richard along. The annual Christmas party that year was notably different. Instead of social posturing, the conversation centered on innovation, technology, and yes, even charitable giving. Victoria had discovered she had a talent for fundraising, once she redirected her social energy toward actual causes. "I owe you an apology," she told me at the party. "Several apologies, actually." "Keep the apologies," I suggested. "Focus on doing better." And surprisingly, she did. The Ashworth name began to mean something different in Boston society, not just old money and social status, but innovation and social responsibility. As for me, I kept my simple dresses and quiet ways, though now everyone knew exactly who and what I was. But the real victory wasn't in revealing my wealth or power, it was in watching a family transform, albeit reluctantly, from social snobs to actual contributors to society. The next generation of Ashworths would grow up understanding that true worth isn't about names or breeding or bank accounts, though having a 9-figure balance certainly helped make that point. It's about what you do with what you have, whether that's money, power, or simply the courage to be yourself in the face of prejudice. And Victoria? She finally learned that lesson too, though it took a significant shock to her system to get there. Sometimes the best way to teach worth is to show just how worthless old prejudices can be. The end.
The first time my mother called me a liar, I was 17. I had just thrown up from the pain for the third time that morning, and she stood in the doorway of the bathroom, arms crossed, lips pursed into that familiar line of disappointment. "My name is Eleanor, and I've spent the last 12 years of my life being told that my pain isn't real." "Get up," she said that morning. "You're going to be late for school again. Alexandra is already dressed and eating breakfast." I tried to stand, but my legs shook so badly I had to grip the toilet bowl. "Mom, please, something's really wrong. I need to see a doctor." "We've been to 4 doctors. They all say you're fine." She sighed, that heavy, theatrical sigh she'd perfected over the years. "This attention-seeking has to stop." That was the first day I learned that some kinds of pain go deeper than physical agony. Some kinds of pain live in the space between what you know is true and what everyone tells you isn't. Eleanor, you look terrible, Summer said to me last week, setting down a cup of tea on my desk. She's been my nurse turned friend for 3 years now, the only person who's consistently believed me. Have you been sleeping? I shook my head, trying to focus on my laptop screen. Working remotely as a content writer is the only job I can manage these days. The pain was bad last night. Really bad. Did you call your parents? I laughed, but it came out more like a cough. Yeah, right. Dad would just tell me to toughen up again, and Mom would remind me how Alexandra works 60-hour weeks without complaining. Summer sat on the edge of my desk. You need to see Dr. Elliot. He's different from the others. He actually listens. I had heard that before, from other well-meaning friends who eventually gave up on me, but Summer was persistent. She made the appointment herself and drove me there when my hands were shaking too badly to grip the steering wheel. Dr. Elliot didn't look up from my file when I entered his office. He was actually reading, my stack of medical records. Tell me about the pain, he said, still not looking up. Shouldn't you tell me it's all in my head first? I tried to joke. That's usually how these appointments start. He finally met my eyes. I prefer to listen before I make assumptions. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about the burning that started in my joints when I was 17, how it spread like wildfire through my body over the years, how some days I couldn't get out of bed, and other days I could almost pretend to be normal. Almost. Your sister, he said, scanning a particular page. Has she shown any symptoms? Alexandra? I nearly laughed again. No, she's perfect. Always has been. Star student, star employee, star daughter. She doesn't have time for mysterious illnesses. Dr. Elliot nodded slowly, making notes. Then he ordered tests. Lots of tests. Tests no other doctor had bothered with because they were too busy suggesting antidepressants or therapy. 3 weeks later, I sat in his office again, clutching the results with trembling hands. It's a rare genetic condition, he explained, pointing to highlighted sections of the report. The symptoms match perfectly. We can start treatment now that we know what we're dealing with. I stared at the papers, at the long medical term that finally gave a name to my personal hell. Can I have copies? Of course. He paused, studying my face. Are you going to tell your family? I thought about my father's cold dismissals, my mother's accusations, Alexandra's eye rolls when she thought I couldn't see. 12 years of being called lazy, attention-seeking, dramatic. 12 years of watching my sister bask in their pride while I drowned in their doubt. No, I said, carefully folding the papers and sliding them into my bag. Not yet. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the validation I'd spent over a decade searching for. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Alexandra just got another promotion. When are you going to get your life together? I held the diagnosis papers up to the light, reading the words again and again until they blurred through my tears. But these weren't tears of sadness or relief. They were tears of something else entirely. Now, I whispered to the empty room, they'll never get to say they were right again. I didn't know then how prophetic those words would become. I didn't know that karma was already in motion, spinning its web of consequences that would trap us all. I just knew that for the first time in 12 years, I had proof. And sometimes, proof is all you need to change everything. I was making coffee when Summer called, her voice tight with an emotion I couldn't place. Have you checked the news? She asked. I try not to. It's bad for my health. I joked, but the tension in her voice made me pause. What's wrong? Check your email. I just sent you a link. I pulled up my laptop, clicked the link, and felt my coffee cup slip from my fingers. It shattered on the kitchen floor, but I barely noticed. The headline read, Rising Tech Executive Collapses During Keynote Speech. Below it was a photo of Alexandra being loaded into an ambulance, her perfectly styled hair splayed across a stretcher. She was giving a presentation to over 200 people, Summer explained. Witnesses say she just dropped, mid-sentence. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Mom, no texts from Dad. Even as their golden child was rushed to the hospital, they couldn't bring themselves to reach out to their other daughter. Which hospital? I asked. Memorial. The same one where they refused to believe I was sick, I finished. Ironic. I didn't go right away. I waited 3 days, watching the local news coverage grow. Alexandra's company issued statements. Her boyfriend Damien gave interviews, looking appropriately concerned in his expensive suit. Still no word from my parents. When I finally walked into the hospital, I found them in the waiting room. Mom was pacing, her heels clicking against the linoleum. Dad sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. Eleanor? Mom stopped mid-stride. What are you doing here? I saw the news, I said. Thought I should check if my sister was dead. Dad's head snapped up. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I smiled. Like collapsing in front of 200 people? Before either could respond, Dr. Elliot emerged from the double doors. My doctor, the one who had finally believed me. Mr. and Mrs. Santiago, he said, we have the test results. Mom grabbed his arm. Is she going to be okay? What's wrong with her? Dr. Elliot's eyes found mine across the room. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere private. They led us to a consultation room. Alexandra was there, propped up in a hospital bed, looking small and pale in her designer pajamas. Damien hovered nearby, his perfect hair slightly mussed. It's a rare genetic condition, Dr. Elliot began, and my heart stopped. The symptoms can be severe: chronic pain, fatigue, organ dysfunction. No, Mom interrupted. That's impossible. Alexandra has always been healthy. Actually, Dr. Elliot continued, this variant is more aggressive than typical cases. Without intervention, the prognosis is... He paused, glancing at his papers. Weeks, maybe months. Alexandra made a sound like a wounded animal. Damien grabbed her hand. But there must be treatment, Dad said, his voice cracking for the first time in my memory. A cure? There's a procedure, Dr. Elliot explained, but it requires a very specific genetic match. We've checked the donor registry. I knew what he was going to say before he said it. Of course I did. The universe has a sick sense of humor that way. There's only one viable match, he finished, looking directly at me. Eleanor. The room went silent. 5 pairs of eyes turned to me, filled with different flavors of desperation. Eleanor, Mom whispered, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. Please, Alexandra spoke for the first time, her voice hoarse. I'm scared. I looked at her, really looked at her. Gone was the perfect makeup, the confident smirk, the air of superiority she'd worn like expensive perfume. For the first time in our lives, my sister looked breakable. Dr. Elliot, I said, keeping my voice steady, could I have a moment alone with my family? He nodded and left. Damien tried to stay, but Alexandra waved him out. I walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot where I'd once sat in my car, crying after another doctor told me nothing was wrong. You know what's funny? I said, not turning around. I've been sick with this exact condition for 12 years. 12 years of begging you to believe me, to help me, to just see me. Eleanor, we didn't know, Dad started. No, I cut him off. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I turned to face them. Mom was crying. Dad looked lost. Alexandra stared at her hands. Now you need something from me, I continued. Now I'm suddenly valuable. Now you believe in genetic conditions and chronic pain and all the things that made me a liar before. Please, Alexandra whispered again. I don't want to die. I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. I'll think about it. As I left, I heard Mom collapse into tears. But it was Alexandra's silence that followed me down the hallway. The same silence that had followed my own cries for help all those years ago. They let me stew for exactly 6 hours before the texts started coming. First from Mom, then Dad, then Damien, who somehow got my number. I ignored them all and went to work, letting the familiar rhythm of typing drown out their digital desperation. The knock on my apartment door came at sunset. I knew it was Damien before I opened it. He had that kind of cologne that announced itself first. Eleanor, he flashed his perfect teeth. Can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe. About what? Look, I know things haven't been great between you and your family. He ran a hand through his expertly tousled hair. But Alexandra needs you, and I'm prepared to make it worth your while. Worth my while? He pulled out his phone. tapped a few times, and showed me a banking app. Name your price. 6 figures, easy. Think about what you could do with that kind of money. I laughed. You think this is about money? Everything's about money, he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Just tell me what you want. What I want. I stepped closer. I wanted someone to believe me when I was throwing up blood in college. I wanted my father to visit me in the hospital when I had a pain crisis so bad they thought I was dying. I wanted my mother to stop telling everyone I was just looking for attention. His smile faltered. That was then. This is now. You're right. This is now. And now I'm asking you, what changed? When did you all start believing in this condition? When Alexandra. Exactly. I cut him off. When Alexandra got it. Because she matters. She's always mattered more. He shifted uncomfortably. That's not fair. No, it's not. None of this is fair. I started closing the door. Goodbye, Damien. Wait. He stuck his foot in the doorway. What do I tell her? Tell her I'm thinking about it. I slammed the door hard enough to make him yelp and pull his foot back. The next morning, my parents were waiting outside my building. Mom had brought coffee, my favorite kind, which she must have asked Summer about because she'd never bothered to learn it herself. Eleanor, please, she held out the cup like a peace offering. Just talk to us. Now you want to talk? I took the coffee but didn't drink it. 12 years of silence and now you want to talk? Dad stepped forward. We made mistakes. We know that now. Do you? I turned to him. Do you remember what you said when I called you from the emergency room 3 years ago? His face went blank. You said, stop being dramatic, Eleanor. Alexandra's getting an award tonight and your mother needs to be there. Then you hung up. I took a sip of coffee. It was perfect, which somehow made it worse. I had a ruptured cyst. I could have died. We didn't know, Mom whispered. You didn't want to know. The words exploded out of me. Every time I tried to tell you something was wrong, you compared me to Alexandra. Every time I needed help, you told me to be more like Alexandra. Well, guess what? Now Alexandra is exactly like me, and suddenly this condition is real. She's dying, Dad said quietly. I was dying too, for years. But that didn't matter because it was just me, right? Mom reached for my hand. This time, I let her take it. Please, Eleanor, we're begging you. Help your sister. I looked at their faces, really looked at them. Mom's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her exhaustion. Dad's usual stoic expression had cracked, showing something that might have been regret. Remember my graduation? I asked suddenly. They exchanged confused looks. I couldn't walk across the stage because I was in too much pain. Alexandra gave a speech as valedictorian, and you told everyone I was hungover, that I was just jealous of her success. I pulled my hand away from Mom's. That was the day I stopped expecting anything from either of you. Eleanor, I'll think about it, I said, cutting off whatever excuse was coming. But not for you, and not because you're finally acting like parents. I turned to go back inside, then stopped. Oh, and Mom, next time you try to bribe me with coffee, remember that I'm lactose intolerant. Another medical fact you chose to forget. I left them standing there, the untouched coffee growing cold between them. As I rode the elevator up to my apartment, my phone buzzed with a text from Alexandra. I'm sorry. I should have believed you. I stared at those words until they blurred. 12 years too late, but at least she was the first one to say it. I typed back a single word. Why? Her response came quickly, because now I know what it feels like to scream and have no one hear you. I turned off my phone without replying. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way. My family was finally learning theirs. You know they're manipulating you, right? Summer said, watching me pack my overnight bag. This sudden kindness, the apologies, the daily gifts, it's all because they need something from you. I folded another sweater. I know. Then why are you going? Because I want them to remember this moment. I zipped up the bag. When they finally treated me like a human being, only because they needed my body parts. The family meeting was set for 7. I arrived at 7:15, just late enough to make a point. They'd gathered in Alexandra's hospital room, Mom, Dad, Damien, and my sister in her designer hospital gown. Eleanor! Mom jumped up. We were worried you wouldn't come. That's new, I said, setting down my bag. Usually you worry I will come. Alexandra winced. She looked worse than before, her skin taking on a yellowish tinge I recognized too well from my own mirror. We've been talking, Dad said, unusually gentle, about how to make this right. I sat in the visitor's chair, crossing my legs. Have you? We'll pay for any treatment you need, Mom rushed in. The best doctors, specialists, whatever it takes. Private nurses, Damien added. Home care. A new apartment? Dad said. Somewhere closer to us. I looked at each of their eager faces. And what about therapy? Of course, Mom nodded. Whatever kind you want. No, I leaned forward. Therapy for you. All of you. To understand why you spent 12 years watching your daughter suffer and decided she was lying. The room went quiet. That's reasonable, Alexandra said softly. We should do that. And public acknowledgement, I continued. Social media posts, family emails, whatever it takes to correct every time you told people I was crazy or attention seeking. Mom's face tightened, but Dad nodded. Done. And one more thing. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app. I want you to listen to something I wrote. Really listen. I started reading. Age 17, first symptoms. Mom says I'm being dramatic. Age 18, collapsed in shower. Dad says I'm hungover. Age 19, hospitalized for 3 days. No visitors because Alexandra has a big presentation. Age 20, I read for 10 minutes. Every dismissal, every cruel word, every missed cry for help. By the end, Mom was crying. Dad stared at the floor. Alexandra had turned away, but I could see her shoulders shaking. That's not even half of it, I said, putting my phone away. But it's enough to make my point. We'll do everything you asked, Dad said. Just please help your sister. I stood up. I'll think about it. Think about it? Damien burst out. She's dying. I was dying too, I said calmly, for years. Funny how that only matters when it's Alexandra. I left them there, but instead of going home, I went to the hospital library. I spent hours researching what would happen if I refused, survival rates, alternative treatments, legal implications. The results were clear. Without my donation, Alexandra had weeks, maybe a month. There were no other matches in the registry, no experimental treatments available in time. My phone buzzed with a text from Summer. You okay? I wrote back. Did you know they can't legally force me to donate? They can't even take my organs if I die unless I've agreed to it. Her response came quickly. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about power, I replied, and how they finally see me now that I have it. The next morning, Mom cornered me in the hospital cafeteria. We're planning a family dinner, she said, trying to sound casual, to celebrate once you and Alexandra are both recovered from the procedure. I stirred my coffee slowly. Am I invited this time? Unlike Alexandra's engagement dinner? She flinched. Eleanor, please, we're trying. No, you're desperate. There's a difference. She's your sister. Was I her sister when she told her friends I was faking it for attention? I looked up from my coffee. When she laughed about my mysterious illness at family gatherings? Mom gripped the edge of the table. People change. She's changed. No. I stood up. She's just scared. Like I was. Except when I was scared, no one came running to save me. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll be at your dinner. I grabbed my purse. And I'll have an announcement to make. About the donation? I smiled, the same smile Alexandra used to give me when she knew something I didn't. About everything. As I walked away, I heard Mom call after me. We're having it tomorrow night. Don't be late. I didn't turn around. Let them plan their celebration. Let them think they'd won. Tomorrow night, they'd learn what it really means when karma comes full circle. Mom outdid herself for the dinner. Crystal glasses, the good china, even fresh flowers, all the things she used to save for Alexandra's achievements. Alexandra herself sat at the table in a wheelchair, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, trying to look stronger than she was. A toast! Dad stood, raising his glass. To family, to healing, and to new beginnings. Everyone lifted their glasses. I took a small sip of wine, letting it linger on my tongue. Eleanor, Mom smiled, that bright, hopeful smile she'd been practicing all week. We have something for you. She pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. Inside was a check with more zeros than I'd ever seen, and keys to what she explained was a luxury apartment near their house. For after the surgery, she said, so we can take care of both our girls properly. Damien cleared his throat. And I've arranged for the best post-operative care money can buy. For both of you. I set down my wine glass carefully. That's very generous. We want to make things right, Dad said. A fresh start. Alexandra reached across the table with a shaking hand. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but we're trying, Elle. Really trying. I looked at their expectant faces, all glowing with relief and premature victory. They thought they'd won. They thought money and promises could erase 12 years of cruelty. I have an announcement, too, I said. Mom beamed. Of course, sweetheart. Tell us. I took another sip of wine, savoring the moment. I'm not doing it. The silence that followed was absolute. What? Alexandra whispered. I'm not doing the donation. I set down my glass. I won't be your donor. Mom's face went white. This isn't funny, Eleanor. No, I agreed. It's not funny at all. Kind of like how it wasn't funny when you told the whole family I was faking seizures for attention. But we agreed, Dad stammered. The apartment, the care, everything you asked for. You can't buy redemption, I said, and you can't buy my body parts. Damien stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You can't do this! She'll die! Like I almost died? I kept my voice calm. 3 years ago, when I had organ failure and none of you answered your phones? That was different, Mom pleaded. We didn't know then. No, you didn't want to know. And now? I reached into my purse and pulled out a document. Now it's too late. Alexandra grabbed the paper with trembling hands. What is this? Legal documentation showing I removed myself from the donor registry over a year ago. I also filed paperwork specifically prohibiting donation of any organs or tissue to family members. I smiled. It's ironclad. My lawyer made sure of it. The room erupted. Mom screamed. Dad knocked over his wine glass. Damien started yelling about lawyers and lawsuits. But Alexandra just stared at me, tears rolling down her face. Why? Because 12 years ago, I needed my big sister, I needed my family, and you all decided I wasn't worth believing. I stood up slowly. Actions have consequences. Sometimes they take years to arrive, but they always come. You're killing her, Mom sobbed. Your own sister. No, I picked up my purse. Your disbelief, your cruelty, your years of dismissal, that's what's killing her. I'm just not offering a last-minute salvation. Please, Alexandra whispered. I'm scared. The same words from the hospital. But this time, they didn't touch me. I was scared too, I said. For 12 years. Funny how no one cared then. Dad grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You can't do this. We're your family. I pulled away. Family believes each other. Family shows up. Family doesn't gaslight and abuse and then expect forgiveness when they suddenly need something. You're a monster, Damien spat. I paused at the door. No, I'm just the first person in this family to say no to Alexandra. Maybe if someone had done that sooner, she wouldn't have grown up thinking she could treat people like garbage without consequences. As I walked out, I heard Mom's wails, Dad's angry shouts, and Alexandra's quiet sobs. But over all of that, I heard something else, the sound of karma finally catching up. In my car, I took a deep breath and texted Summer. It's done. Her reply came instantly. Are you okay? I looked back at the house, at the chaos I'd left behind, at the family that only valued me when they needed parts of my body. No, I typed back, but for the first time in 12 years, I'm free. I drove away from their perfect house, their perfect dinner, their imperfect daughter who finally learned what it meant to be powerless. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to others. It's what you refuse to do for them. The story broke on a Tuesday. Tech executive denied life-saving donation by sister screamed the headlines. My phone exploded with notifications, messages, and death threats from strangers who thought they knew the whole story. Turn off your social media, Summer advised, closing my laptop. They're crucifying you out there. I was reading comments calling me a murderer when Damien's interview aired. He'd gone on national television, perfectly groomed in his grief, to tell the world about the heartless sister who refused to save her dying sibling. She's always been jealous of Alexandra, he said, wiping away camera-ready tears. This is her revenge. The next day, Mom's tearful interview followed. We're just trying to understand why she wants to punish us like this. I watched it all from my apartment, where I'd been holed up since the story broke. Summer brought groceries and checked my mail, which now included handwritten hate letters. You should tell your side, she said, sorting through the latest batch of threats. Fight back! I shook my head, but then my phone buzzed with a text from Alexandra. They're making you into a monster. Let me fix it. That was the final straw. I opened my laptop and started typing. The blog post began simply. I was 17 when I first realized something was wrong with my body. I was 29 when my family finally believed me, but only because my sister got sick too. I wrote everything. The years of pain, the dismissal, the isolation, the way they'd laugh when I couldn't get out of bed, the family events I missed because I was in the hospital alone. The time Mom told her bridge club I was in rehab when really I was getting treatment for organ inflammation. My sister is dying, I wrote near the end. And I'm supposed to save her because now, suddenly, this condition is real. Now, suddenly, chronic pain matters. Now, suddenly, my body has value, but only the parts they can cut out and give to her. I hit publish at 3 a.m., then turned off my phone. The post went viral by morning. Other chronically ill people started sharing their stories. Women wrote about medical gaslighting, about families who didn't believe them, about the particular pain of being dismissed by those who should protect you. I believe Eleanor started trending. Look at this. Summer showed me her phone. You've started a movement. The media narrative began to shift. Medical experts discussed the history of women being disbelieved by doctors. Psychologists talked about family trauma and medical abuse. My story wasn't just mine anymore, it had become a catalyst. Then Alexandra posted her response. My sister told the truth. She wrote on her company's website, I was cruel. We all were. We watched her suffer for years and chose not to believe her. I'm dying now, and I understand her pain in a way I never did before. But it's too late for understanding. Some debts can't be paid with apologies. The comments exploded. Finally, someone taking responsibility. Too little, too late. Karma is real. Damien showed up at my door that evening, no camera crew this time. Take it down, he demanded. Your blog post. Take it down, or I'll sue you for defamation. I leaned against the doorframe. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Everything I wrote is documented. Want to see my medical records? The hospital bills? The text messages? You're killing her. No, I said quietly. I'm just not saving her. There's a difference. He raised his hand like he might hit me, then thought better of it. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I started closing the door. And Damien? The security cameras in this hallway work great. Maybe think about that before you come threatening me again. After he left, I got another text from Alexandra. I meant what I wrote. I'm sorry. Not because I'm dying, but because I finally understand what living feels like for you. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Understanding only matters when it changes how you treat people. You had 12 years to understand. You chose not to. She wrote back immediately. I know, and now I have to live or die with that choice. That night, I sat with Summer on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker like stars. What happens now? She asked. Now? I sipped my tea. Now they learn what it feels like to be powerless, to know something's wrong and not be able to fix it, to scream for help and have nobody listen. And Alexandra? I thought about my sister, lying in her hospital bed, finally understanding what it meant to be the one nobody could save. Alexandra gets what she always wanted, I said, to be just like me. The city hummed below us, indifferent to our small dramas of life and death. Somewhere in a hospital room, my sister was learning the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the consequences of our actions take years to arrive, but when they do, they come with interest. Alexandra died on a Thursday morning. I found out from a news alert on my phone while waiting for coffee at my favorite cafe. The barista saw my hands shaking and asked if I was okay. My sister just died, I said, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. She gave me my coffee for free. It was the kindest thing anyone did for me that day. The media circus started immediately. Reporters camped outside my apartment, shouting questions. How do you feel about your sister's death? Do you regret your decision? What do you say to people calling you a murderer? Summer helped me pack a bag that night. Iceland, she said, holding up my passport. Like we always talked about, you need to get away. 24 hours later, I stood on a black sand beach, watching waves crash against volcanic rock. The wind whipped my hair, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We're having a private funeral. Please don't come. I typed back. Wasn't planning to. 3 days into my trip, while hiking a remote trail, my phone rang with an unknown number. Is this Eleanor? A woman's voice asked. This is Margaret Wells, Alexandra's lawyer. I sat down on a boulder, watching steam rise from a nearby hot spring. What do you want? Alexandra left something for you, a letter and other items. She was quite insistent about you receiving them after her passing. I don't want anything from her. She said you'd say that. The lawyer paused. She also said to tell you it's not what you think. It's not an apology or a guilt trip. It's the truth you deserve. I gave her my email address. The scanned letter arrived an hour later. Dear Eleanor, it began, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. That means I can finally tell you everything without fear of consequences. Because the truth is, I knew I was sick months before I collapsed. I had the same symptoms you described for years. The pain, the fatigue, everything. But I watched how they treated you, and I was terrified. Terrified of becoming the other daughter, the broken one, the one they didn't believe. So I hid it. I pushed through. I kept working and smiling and pretending until my body literally gave out in front of 200 people. I couldn't hide anymore after that, but by then it was too late. The disease had progressed too far. The doctors said even if you had agreed to donate, my chances were slim. I never told our parents that part. You were right about everything. About them, about me, about how we treated you. I was their perfect daughter because I learned early to hide anything that might make me less than perfect. You were braver than me. You asked for help. You told the truth. And we punished you for it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know that your strength, the strength we mocked, was something I envied but never had. You survived 12 years of what killed me in months. There's more. In my private safe, you'll find documentation. Years of medical records showing early symptoms I hid, diary entries, everything you need to prove to our parents that their perfect daughter was just better at lying than you ever were. Do what you want with it. Burn it. Publish it. Use it to finally make them understand what they did to you. Or don't. Your choice. For once in our lives, I'm giving you the power to decide what truth they get to know. You didn't kill me, Eleanor. Our family's culture of perfection and denial did, and maybe, in the end, I killed myself by choosing their approval over my own survival. Be free, sister. You've earned it. Alexandra. I sat on that boulder until the sun set, reading the letter over and over. Summer called twice, but I let it go to voicemail. Finally, as darkness fell over the Icelandic landscape, I typed out an email to Alexandra's lawyer. Send me everything. Then I turned off my phone and started walking. The northern lights were beginning to dance across the sky, green and purple ribbons of light that made me feel small and insignificant. I thought about Alexandra hiding her pain behind perfect smiles, about Mom and Dad creating a world where their daughters had to choose between honesty and love, about the weight of secrets and the price of truth. Some debts are paid in silence, I whispered to the Arctic wind, others in blood. Yours was paid in both. The lights continued their dance, indifferent to my family's tragedy. Somewhere in a lawyer's office, a safe held the final act of our story, but for now I just watched the sky and let myself feel something I hadn't expected. Peace. The package from Alexandra's lawyer arrived while I was still in Iceland. Summer forwarded me a photo of the sealed envelope, but I asked her to wait until I returned to open it. "Are you sure you want to see what's inside?" she asked when I finally sat at my kitchen table, staring at the thick manila envelope. "No," I said, breaking the seal, "but Alexandra made her choice. Now I need to make mine." The contents spilled across my table: medical records, journal entries, hospital receipts paid in cash, years of hidden doctor visits and secret symptoms, all carefully documented by my perfect sister who'd chosen silence over truth. She really was sick, Summer whispered, reading over my shoulder. All that time. And she watched them destroy me for having the same condition. I gathered the papers into a neat pile. She watched and said nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Please come home. We need to talk." I looked at Alexandra's papers, then at Summer. "Want to take a drive?" They were waiting in their perfect living room when I arrived. Mom had lost weight. Dad looked older. Neither spoke as I sat down and placed Alexandra's records on the coffee table. "What's that?" Mom asked. "The truth," I said, opening the first file. Alexandra's truth. I read them: entries from her journal, descriptions of pain that mirrored my own. Secret doctor visits dating back 3 years. Prescriptions filled under false names. She was sick, I continued, watching their faces crumple. Long before her collapse, she just knew better than to tell you. "Why?" Dad's voice cracked. "Why wouldn't she tell us?" "Because she saw what you did to me." I pulled out more papers. She wrote about it. How watching you dismiss my pain taught her to hide her own. How being the perfect daughter meant never showing weakness. Mom started crying. Dad just stared at the floor. "You didn't just fail me," I said quietly. "You failed both your daughters. The only difference is I survived it. What do you want from us?" Mom whispered. "Want?" I laughed. "I don't want anything from you. Alexandra left me these papers to use however I chose. I could publish them, expose your perfect family for what it really was. I could destroy what's left of your reputation." They both flinched, but I'm not going to do that. I stood up. "Because Alexandra made her choice and she died with it. That's punishment enough." "Then why show us?" Dad asked. "Because you need to live with the knowledge that you didn't just torture one daughter, you terrified the other into silence, into choosing death over disappointing you." I walked to the door. "That's your karma to carry." "Eleanor, wait," Mom called out. "Please, can we try to fix this?" I turned back one last time. Some things can't be fixed. Some debts can't be paid. Live with that. I have. The next morning, Dr. Elliot called. "I heard you're back in town. There's something I'd like to discuss with you." We met in his office, where a camera crew was setting up equipment. "We're making a documentary," he explained, "about chronic illness, medical gaslighting, and family trauma. Would you be interested in telling your story?" I thought about Alexandra's papers, about all the other people suffering in silence. "Yes," I said, "but not just my story. My sister's too. The whole truth." He nodded. "That's exactly what we need." That evening, I sat in my new apartment, not the one they'd tried to bribe me with, but one I'd chosen for myself, and started painting. It was something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the energy for before my treatment. The sunrise I was creating on canvas wasn't perfect. The colors bled into each other, the lines weren't straight, but it was honest, real, like the pain that still lived in my body, like the truth that finally lived in my words. Summer brought dinner and watched me paint. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Being the last one standing?" I dipped my brush in yellow paint. "It feels like freedom, not the happy kind, the heavy kind, the kind that comes with knowing you survived something that killed someone else. And your parents? They'll live with their choices, just like Alexandra died with hers, just like I'm living with mine." I added another streak of yellow to my sunrise. It wasn't quite right, but it was mine, my truth, my pain, my healing. Sometimes that's all we get. Not perfect justice or complete closure, just the quiet victory of surviving and the courage to paint our own tomorrow. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. I said, stepping back from my canvas. Some end with truth, and sometimes that's enough.
Money has a way of making people show their true colours. I learned that lesson the hard way at my family dinner last night when my mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Your value was always what you gave. Without that, well, we all have to be realistic. I'm Deborah. And until yesterday, I thought I was living the American dream. Financial consultant, corner office, the kind of success story immigrant parents love to brag about at community gatherings. What I didn't realise was that I'd become nothing more than an ATM with a pulse to the people I loved most. "Another round of drinks," my brother Zachariah called out, waving his empty glass. We were at La Maison, the kind of place where even the water comes with a hefty price tag. My sister Alexis was showing off photos from her recent trip to Paris, the one I'd funded, of course. "The suite at the Ritz was absolutely divine," she gushed, swiping through pictures on her phone. Though the concierge was a bit stuffy, probably because I asked them to arrange that last-minute helicopter tour. I smiled weakly, pushing my untouched salmon around the plate. The market downturn had hit my portfolio hard this quarter. For the first time in 10 years, I was feeling the squeeze. Nothing catastrophic, just temporary illiquidity. I'd been dreading this conversation all week, but they were family. They'd understand. "Actually," I cleared my throat, "I needed to talk to you all about something." My father Martin looked up from his phone, while my mother Victoria raised an perfectly shaped eyebrow. Zachariah was still trying to catch the waiter's eye. "I'm having a bit of a cash flow issue this quarter," I said carefully. "Just temporary, but I might need to pause some of the usual arrangements for a few months." The silence that followed was deafening. Alexis's phone clattered onto her plate. "What do you mean, pause?" Zachariah turned to face me, his expression darkening. "The expansion plans for my startup are already in motion. We need that bridge funding next week. I'm sorry, I just can't right now. Maybe in a few months." "What good are you now?" he scoffed, cutting me off. "I've got investors waiting. Real investors." "I've already booked my wellness retreat in Bali," Alexis chimed in, her voice rising. "The deposit is non-refundable." I looked to my parents for support. Mum was examining her manicure with sudden interest, while Dad became intensely focused on his wine glass. "I'm still your daughter," I said softly. "This doesn't change anything." Victoria finally looked up. Her lips curved in what might have been a smile, but felt more like a sneer. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, reaching across to pat my hand condescendingly. "Let's be honest here. Your father and I have always been proud of how you've supported the family. It's what good daughters do. But if you can't fulfill that role anymore..." "The mortgage payment is due next week," Dad added quietly, still not meeting my eyes. I sat there, stunned, as years of memories flashed through my mind. The $50,000 I'd given Zachariah when his first business failed. The legal fees I'd covered when Alexis got into trouble in Miami. My parents' mortgage payments, credit card bills, medical expenses, all paid without question because that's what family does, right? "I think I need some air," I managed to say, standing up on shaky legs. Nobody moved to stop me. Outside, the summer air felt thick and suffocating. My phone buzzed, a text from Zachariah. "When you're done with your little drama, we need to discuss the startup funding. Don't embarrass me in front of my investors." Another buzz. Alexis sharing her Bali retreat invoice in our family group chat, followed by a pointed, "I expect this handled by Monday." My fingers trembled as I dialed the one person I knew would understand. "Imran, it's Deborah. Remember those documents you helped me notarize over the years? I think it's time we took a closer look at them." His response was measured, careful. They always forget who keeps the receipts, don't they? I leaned against the restaurant's brick wall, watching happy families stroll past through blur of tears. 10 years of unconditional giving. And this was what it got me. A family's love measured in dollar signs and decimals. My phone buzzed again. A message from my mother. "We're ordering dessert. Come back inside when you're done being difficult. And don't forget, your father's golf club membership renewal is due this month." I wiped my eyes and straightened my spine. Something cold and hard was crystallizing in my chest, replacing the hurt with something else entirely. They wanted to talk about money? Fine. Let's talk about money. 3 weeks of silence feels like an eternity when you're used to your phone buzzing with financial emergencies every few hours. No more frantic calls from Zachariah about investor meetings. No more screenshots from Alexis of designer handbags she absolutely needs. Even my parents' constant stream of bills had dried up. I was at my desk, reviewing client portfolios, when my assistant Sadie knocked on my door. "Your sister's in the lobby," she said, her expression concerned. "Should I tell her you're in a meeting?" I shook my head. "No, send her up. It's time we talked." Alexis swept in, wearing new Louboutins, probably purchased with the money that should have gone to her share of our parents' utilities. She didn't sit down. "You're being ridiculous," she announced, dropping her bag on my desk. "This little tantrum of yours needs to stop. Mum's beside herself." "Tantrum?" I kept my voice level. "Is that what we're calling financial responsibility now?" "Oh, please!" Alexis rolled her eyes. "You've always been so dramatic about money, like it actually means something. We're family." "Exactly. We're family. Which is why I thought you'd understand when I needed a brief pause." "God, are you still on about that?" She started pacing. "Look, I had to cancel Bali because of you. Do you know how embarrassing that was? My Instagram followers were expecting content." I couldn't help but laugh. "Your Instagram followers? Right. What about the $175,000 you owe me? The money you promised to pay back eventually?" She stopped pacing. "That was different. I needed those things." "Different how?" "Because you're..." She gestured vaguely at my office. "You. This is what you do. You take care of us. It's your role." My phone buzzed. A group text from Zachariah. "Big opportunity. Need everyone on board. Family meeting tomorrow night. Connor has amazing expansion plans. 1.2 mans required. Deb, time to step up." Alexis's phone chimed with the same message. She smiled triumphantly. "See? This is your chance to fix things. Make it right. Make what right." I stood up slowly. The fact that I had one bad quarter after a decade of supporting everyone. "Don't be so sensitive," she snapped. "You know what your problem is? You've always acted like you're better than us, with your fancy degree and your corner office. But you're not one of us. You never were. You're just convenient." The words hung in the air between us. I felt oddly calm. "Get out of my office." "Excuse me?" "Get out." She grabbed her bag, face flushed. "Mum was right about you. All that money and still so desperate to belong. It's pathetic, really." After she left, I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Sadie appeared with coffee and a concerned look. "I heard," she said quietly. "Want me to pull up the files?" I nodded. We'd been maintaining detailed records for years. Every transfer, every promise, every IOU. All carefully documented and stored. Just in case. My phone rang. Imran. "I saw the group text," he said without preamble. "Zachariah's really pushing his luck." "They all are." I opened my laptop, where a folder labelled Family Financial Records held years of evidence. "Remember that trust document we set up in 2019? The one where we had everything notarized? Of course. They always forget who keeps the receipts." "You've said that before." "Because it's always true." He paused. "Are you ready to use them?" I clicked through files, bank statements, promissory notes, text messages promising repayment, years of financial abuse documented in pristine detail. "Not yet. Let's see what tomorrow's meeting brings." "Be careful," he warned. "Connor's involved now. That guy's shadier than a beach umbrella." After hanging up, I found myself looking at an old photo on my desk. Family vacation, 5 years ago. I'd paid for everything, flights, resort, activities. Everyone looked so happy, so grateful. My phone buzzed again. A private text from my mother. "Alexis told me what you said to her. After everything we've done for you, your father and I expected better. Everything they'd done for me." "Right." I opened my drawer and pulled out a particular document, a photo of a hotel receipt from 2019 with Alexis's drunken scrawl across it. "I'll pay you every cent back eventually, Alexis." Tomorrow, they wanted to talk about a $1.2 million loan. Fine. But this time, I had some terms of my own. I texted Sadie. "Pull everything we have, Every receipt, every promise, every document. It's time. Her response was immediate. Already on it. Want me to call Imran? Yes. Tell him to bring the paperwork we discussed last year. All of it. The family wanted a meeting. They'd get one they'd never forget. The cafe where Zachariah chose to meet was deliberately upscale, the kind of place where deals get made over $15 lattes. He and Connor were already there when I arrived, heads bent over spreadsheets, looking every bit the serious entrepreneurs they pretended to be. Sis! Zachariah stood up, arms wide, as if the last few weeks hadn't happened. Come, sit. Connor's got something amazing to show you. I took the offered seat, noting how they'd positioned themselves on either side of me. Classic pressure tactic. My brother had learned a few things from his failed ventures after all. Coffee? Connor pushed a cup toward me. Already ordered your usual. Zach said you like it extra hot. How thoughtful. I took a sip. It was cold. Zachariah spread out some documents. So, about that little cash flow hiccup of yours. Water under the bridge, right? Family sticks together through rough patches. Is that what we're calling it now? A rough patch? Look, Connor leaned in, all smooth confidence and expensive cologne. We've got investors lined up. Big players. They just want to see some family backing first. Shows confidence in the project, you know? And naturally, you thought of me. Who else? Zachariah grinned. You're the financial wizard in the family. Mum always says... What exactly does Mom say these days, Zach? He faltered slightly, but recovered quickly. The point is, this is huge. We're talking triple returns within 18 months. All we need is your signature on the loan papers. Connor slid a document across the table. Simple co-signing. The bank's already on board. Just need the final guarantor. I picked up the papers, scanning them slowly. 1.2 million. That's quite a number. It's nothing for someone like you. Zachariah waved dismissively. And think about what it means for the family. You'll be back in everyone's good graces. Mum will stop crying at night. Mum's crying at night. Heartbroken, he nodded solemnly. Says she doesn't recognize her daughter anymore. I reached for my bag, pulled out my own folder. Speaking of recognition, I found something interesting the other day. Remember this? I slid across a document from 3 years ago. A hastily written promise to repay $200,000 signed by Zachariah. His face darkened. Ancient history. We agreed that was a gift. Did we? Because I have the recording of our call where you specifically said, and I quote, I'll pay back every penny, I swear on Mum's life. Connor shifted uncomfortably. Look, Ms. Deborah, the past is... I'm not finished. I cut him off, pulling out more papers. Here's the trust agreement from 2020, the notarized loan document from 2021. Oh, and my personal favourite, the text messages where you promised to start repaying me once your crypto investment hit big. Zachariah's face had gone from red to white. You kept all that? I kept everything, Zach. Every promise, every IOU, every tearful phone call begging for just a little more. Those were private family matters. No. I stood up, gathering my things. Those were business transactions, and now it's time to collect. You wouldn't dare, he hissed. We're blood. Funny how that only matters when you need money. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Connor? I had my team look into your previous ventures. Interesting pattern of bankruptcies you've got there. The SEC might find it fascinating. You're making a mistake, Zachariah called after me. The family won't forgive this. I stopped at the door. Forgive what? I'm just being a good businesswoman. Isn't that what you all wanted? Back at my office, Sadie was waiting with Imran. They'd been reviewing the final documentation all morning. How'd it go? Imran asked, though his smile suggested he already knew. About as expected. Is everything ready for tomorrow? He nodded, patting a thick folder. All the paperwork's prepared. Though I have to ask, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. My phone buzzed. A message from Alexis. How dare you threaten Zach? Mum's having a panic attack because of you. Another buzz. Dad this time. Your mother's beside herself. Is this how we raised you? Final buzz. Zachariah. You think you've got proof? Good luck proving anything in court, sis. Hope you're ready for war. I showed the messages to Imran, who simply raised an eyebrow. Send out the dinner invitations, I told Sadie. Tomorrow night? My house? Tell them I've made my decision about the loan. All of them, she asked. Every last one. I picked up Alexis's old hotel receipt with its drunken promise. It's time for a proper family reunion. And the envelopes? Imran gestured to the stack we'd prepared. I smiled. Make sure everyone gets one. It's only fair they know exactly what they owe. They arrived at my house in waves. Alexis first, wearing a conciliatory smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then my parents, Mum clutching her designer handbag like a shield, Dad hovering behind her like a shadow. Zachariah and Connor came last, all business suits and forced confidence. Lovely home, Connor commented, glancing around my living room. Very successful. Thank you, I smiled. The mortgage is quite manageable when you're not supporting 5 other households. Mum's lips tightened. Deborah, darling, there's no need for hostility. We're here to discuss Zachariah's wonderful opportunity. Of course. I gestured to the dining table, where places were set with elegant precision. At each spot lay a crisp, white envelope. Please, everyone take your seats. They settled in, exchanging glances. Sadie appeared silently with water and wine, then disappeared into the kitchen. I remained standing. Before we discuss any new ventures, I began, I think we should address some old business. Please, open your envelopes. Oh, for heaven's sake. Alexis rolled her eyes but reached for hers. Is this some kind of... She stopped mid-sentence, face draining of colour as she pulled out the contents. The others followed suit. The only sound was rustling paper and sharp intakes of breath. What is this? Dad's voice trembled as he held up his papers. That's a complete record of every dollar I've given you over the past decade. Loans, gifts, payments, all meticulously documented. The highlighted portions are your signed promises to repay. These mean nothing, Zachariah snarled, throwing his papers down. We're family. Keep reading, I suggested mildly. Page 2 shows the interest calculations. Page 3 outlines the legal consequences of default. Mum's hand shook as she turned pages. You kept records? Of everything? Every single transaction. Every tearful phone call. Every promise made. I pulled out my phone, pressed play. I swear, sis, just this once, I'll pay you back everything. Zachariah's voice filled the room. You recorded us? Alexis shrieked. In states where it's legal to do so, yes. One-party consent is a fascinating thing. Connor stood up. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly expect... Sit down, Connor. Your envelope contains something special. Documentation of every questionable transaction you've orchestrated with my brother. The SEC would love to see it. He sat. You have 30 days, I continued calmly. 30 days to begin repayment arrangements. After that, my lawyer files everything. And yes, it will all hold up in court. You wouldn't, Mum whispered. We're your family. Funny, that didn't seem to matter 3 weeks ago when you said my only value was financial. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. I finally sat down, facing them all. For 10 years, I've been your ATM, your emergency fund, your blank check. Now it's time to pay the piper. Dad found his voice. The country club will revoke our membership if this gets out. The country club I pay for? Yes, probably. Alexis was still scanning her papers, face growing paler. These amounts, this is impossible. I can't... Can't what? Pay back the money you promised to return? The funds you marked as gifts on your taxes? That's fraud, by the way. The IRS has been notified. You vindictive bitch! Zachariah stood up, face red. No judge will side with you. I'll tear these up right now. He grabbed his envelope, ripping it dramatically. Go ahead, I smiled. That's copy number 4. Imran has the originals in his safe. Would you like his number? He's expecting your call. The room erupted. Mum burst into tears. Dad stared at his hands. Alexis started hyperventilating. Connor was already texting frantically. This isn't what family does, Mum sobbed. No, I agreed. Family doesn't treat their daughter like a cash dispenser. Family doesn't disappear when the money runs dry. Family doesn't forge loan documents. Zachariah froze. What are you talking about? I pulled out one final document. The loan application you submitted yesterday. The one with my forged signature. The bank's fraud department is very interested in that. You're bluffing, he whispered, but his face had gone ashen. Try me. Silence fell. Heavy, suffocating silence. 30 days, I repeated, standing up. After that, everything goes public. Every document, every recording, every fraud. Your choice. You'll regret this, Alexis hissed, gathering her things. You'll die alone. Better alone than surrounded by parasites. They left in a storm of threats and tears. Mum's final look of betrayal, Dad's defeated shuffle, Zachariah's impotent rage. Only Connor lingered. You know, he said quietly, you're actually scarier than your brother said. Thank you. The SEC will be in touch. After they were gone, Sadie emerged with a fresh bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Well, that was something. It certainly was. I picked up Zachariah's torn envelope. Think they'll pay? They will when the lawsuits hit. My phone buzzed. Imran. Ready to file when you give the word. I looked at the family photos still hanging on my wall. Time to take those down. Send the first notices tomorrow, I texted back. No mercy. You really need to see this, Sadie said, bursting into my office with her laptop. She set it down, pulling up a series of documents. Remember when you asked me to dig deeper into Alexis's tax returns? I leaned forward, scanning the screen. Are these gift declarations? She's been reporting every penny you gave her as gifts to avoid tax liability, but look at her own records. Sadie clicked to another document. She's been recording them as loans in her personal accounts. Tax fraud. I sat back, a cold smile forming. Clear as day. There's more. Sadie pulled up another file. Remember that trust fund you set up for your parents' retirement? The one they insisted on having partial control over? Don't tell me. They've been siphoning money to Zachariah's ventures, against the trust's terms. My phone buzzed. Imran calling. Tell me you're sitting down, he said when I answered. What now? That loan application with your forged signature? It went through. Someone at the bank pushed it through despite the red flags. Want to guess who signed off on it? Connor has friends at the bank? Better. Zachariah's college roommate is a loan officer. They backdated everything to make it look legitimate. I put the phone on speaker so Sadie could hear. How much exposure are we talking about? The full $1.2 million. Plus they have already drawn down $300,000. But here's the beautiful part. They didn't know about the silent recording feature on your home security system during that dinner. My heart skipped. What did it catch? Zachariah and Connor discussing the forgery in your hallway bathroom. Crystal clear audio. Quote, she'll never know we faked her signature. By the time she figures it out, we'll be too big to fail. Sadie's eyes widened. Please tell me you're filing charges. Already drafted. But Deborah, there's something else you should hear. Imran's voice turned serious. I found something while reviewing the old files. Remember that call with Zachariah from 2019? The one where he begged for startup money? Vaguely? Why? He recorded it, probably trying to catch you promising something. But instead, he caught himself admitting to tax evasion and securities fraud. And because he made the recording, it's admissible evidence, I finished. No expectation of privacy. Exactly. He handed us a smoking gun without realizing it. My desk phone lit up. The reception line. Miss Deborah, your mother's here. She's quite insistent. I looked at Sadie, who nodded. Send her up. Victoria swept in moments later. Designer sunglasses hiding what were probably tears. We need to talk. About the trust fund fraud or Zachariah's forged loan? She froze. How did you... I know everything, Mom. Every transaction, every lie, every scheme. You don't understand, she began, removing her glasses. Her eyes were indeed red. Your father and I, we had no choice. Zachariah needed consequences, I cut her off. Instead, you enabled him, with my money. We're family. We protect each other. No, Mum. You protected him. At my expense. Every single time. She sank into a chair. What do you want? Everything documented in those envelopes, plus interest, plus damages. We'll lose everything. Like I lost my family's love the moment I couldn't write checks anymore? Her face crumpled. That's not fair. Neither was teaching me that my only value was financial. But here we are. My phone buzzed again. A text from Alexis. They're freezing my accounts. What did you do? Then another from Dad. The golf club cancelled my membership. Please, we can talk about this. And finally, from Zachariah. You think you're so smart? Watch what happens when I release those recordings of you promising to fund my business. I showed the messages to Imran. He actually laughed. Does he mean the recordings where he admits to fraud? Please, let him try. Mum was watching me, something like fear in her eyes. You were never supposed to fight back, she whispered. We never thought you had it in you. That was your first mistake. I stood up. You have 27 days left before everything goes public. I suggest you start liquidating assets. Your father will never forgive you. Dad hasn't had an original thought since 1985. He'll do whatever you tell him to. She stood shakily, dignity in tatters. Is this what you wanted? To destroy your family? No, Mum. This is what you wanted. You just didn't expect to pay for it. After she left, Sadie brought me fresh coffee. You okay? I looked at the family photo I'd finally taken down from my wall. You know what's funny? For years I thought keeping records was my way of proving I was worthy of their love. Turns out it was my subconscious preparing for war. Speaking of war, Imran's voice came through the speaker. Should I file those IRS reports now? I touched the photo one last time before dropping it in the trash. File everything. The dominoes fell faster than anyone expected. The bank's fraud department moved first, freezing the forged loan and triggering an internal investigation. Connor's contact at the bank was suspended pending review. Zachariah's business accounts were locked down. They're turning on each other, Sadie reported, bringing me the morning updates. Connor's lawyer contacted us. He wants to make a deal. Of course he does. I sipped my coffee, reviewing the latest emails. What's he offering? Full testimony against Zachariah in exchange for immunity from SEC investigation. My phone lit up. Alexis calling for the 12th time today. I let it go to voicemail. Ms. Deborah? My receptionist buzzed. The IRS agents are here for the meeting. Two stern-faced agents spent 3 hours going through Alexis's tax documents. They left with boxes of evidence and tight smiles. This is quite comprehensive, the senior agent commented. Most families don't keep such detailed records. Most families don't steal from each other, I replied. By afternoon, the situation had escalated. Imran called with updates. Your parents' pension fund is frozen pending investigation of co-mingled funds. Alexis's passport has been flagged. And Zachariah... He paused for effect. Zachariah just tried to empty your joint business account. The one I closed last week? Exactly. He's panicking. A knock on my office door interrupted us. Dad stood there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Can we talk? His voice was rough. Just us? I gestured to the chair. He sat heavily, pulling out a handkerchief to wipe his forehead. Your mother doesn't know I'm here, he began. She's not handling things well. I imagine not. The bank called about the mortgage. They're reviewing our loan due to... He swallowed hard. Irregular payments. You mean the payments I made that you claimed were yours? He flinched. We never meant for things to go this far. Really? Because forging my signature on $1 million loan seems pretty far. That was Zachariah's idea. He said, Stop. I held up my hand. Every time something goes wrong, it's someone else's idea. Zachariah needed it. Mom insisted. The family required it. When does anyone take responsibility? We're your parents. No, you're my first lesson in financial abuse. His face crumpled. Please, the golf club was my whole social life. Your mother's friends are already whispering. If this gets out, it's already out, Dad. The IRS doesn't whisper. My phone buzzed. Imran again. Zachariah's trying to leave the country. Border Patrol's been notified. Dad heard it. His shoulders sagged. He always was reckless with money. We thought you could balance him out. By bankrupting me? By being the responsible one? He stood up suddenly. You were always so capable, so strong. We needed that. No, you needed my wallet. There's a difference. Another buzz. Sadie texting. Alexis just got served with IRS papers at her yoga class. She's having a meltdown on Instagram Live. Dad was still talking. Something about family legacy and blood being thicker than water. I cut him off. The trust fund money you diverted to Zachariah? That's criminal fraud. The forged loan, federal offense, Alexis's tax evasion, felony. This isn't about family anymore, Dad. This is about consequences. What do you want from us? His voice broke. Everything documented in those envelopes. Every dollar. Every cent. We'll lose the house. I lost my family. Seems fair? He left without another word, shoulders bent under the weight of reality. Minutes later, Mum called. What have you done? She hissed. Your father's crying. Funny how that works. When I cried, you called it manipulation. The country club wives are already talking. Our reputation is exactly what you deserve. How's Zachariah's escape plan working out? She hung up. Seconds later, Alexis texted. They're auditing my entire tax history. Fix this now. I forwarded it to Imran with a simple reply. Add tax fraud to her file. Sadie appeared with fresh coffee and a stack of newspapers. Local business section picked up the story. Family financial fraud scheme exposed. Want to read it? Not really. I stared out my office window at the city below. Any word from Connor? His lawyer delivered a full confession an hour ago, threw Zachariah completely under the bus. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from my mother. You were never supposed to fight back. We never thought you had it in you. I showed it to Sadie, who snorted. They still think this is about fighting back. It's not? No, she smiled grimly. This is about justice, and justice doesn't need anyone's permission. I nodded, turning back to the window. Somewhere out there, my family was finally learning the true cost of their actions, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing but relief. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension. My family sat on one side, their lawyers hovering nervously. Alexis kept dabbing at her mascara-streaked face, while Mum stared straight ahead, her designer outfit a size too loose now. Dad seemed to have aged a decade. Zachariah, released on bail after his failed escape attempt, couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Imran touched my arm. Ready? I smoothed my blazer. Born ready. The bailiff called us in. Judge Martinez had already reviewed the evidence, all 15 volumes of it. She peered at us over her reading glasses as we settled into our seats. Before we begin, she said, I want to be clear about something. In 20 years on the bench, I've seen every kind of financial fraud imaginable. But this, she held up a document. This is something special. Zachariah's lawyer stepped forward. Your Honour, we maintain that these were family arrangements, informal in nature. Informal? The judge cut him off. A forged signature on a $1.2 million loan application is informal? Tax fraud is informal? Trust fund embezzlement is informal? Mum made a small choking sound. Let's start with the recordings, Judge Martinez continued, pressing play on a device. Zachariah's voice filled the courtroom. Just forge her signature. She'll never check. She's too busy playing the perfect daughter. Connor's voice. What if she finds out? She won't. And if she does, what's she going to do? We're family. I watched Zachariah sink lower in his seat as his lawyer winced. Next came Alexis's tax documents. The judge methodically outlined years of deliberate fraud, while my sister's expensive lawyer tried to argue it was all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Judge Martinez raised an eyebrow. She declared these as gifts to avoid taxes, while simultaneously documenting them as loans in her private records. That's not a misunderstanding, Counselor. That's premeditation. My parents' trust fund violations came next. Mom finally broke her silence. We only borrowed from it, she burst out. We were going to put it back. Mrs. Sims, the judge's voice could have frozen fire. You diverted retirement funds into unauthorized business ventures. That's embezzlement. The morning dragged on. Each piece of evidence was dissected. Each defense was dismantled. My family's lawyers looked increasingly desperate. Finally, Judge Martinez sat back. I've heard enough. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. The ruling was comprehensive. Zachariah faced criminal charges for the loan fraud. Alexis had to repay all back taxes plus penalties. My parents were ordered to repay every diverted dollar with interest. All assets were to be frozen until full restitution was made. "But we'll lose everything," Mum wailed. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before stealing from your daughter," the judge replied coldly. As we filed out, Alexis tried to approach me. "Debbie, please, my Instagram influencer career will be ruined. Should have thought about that before committing tax fraud." Zachariah's lawyer chased after Imran, trying to negotiate. "We can work something out." "Your client attempted to flee the country," Imran replied. "The only thing we're working out is his plea deal." In the courthouse lobby, Dad made one last attempt. "We're still your parents." "No." I finally turned to face them all. "Your defendants who happened to raise me. There's a difference." Mum stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "How can you be so cold? After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done to me," I corrected. "And this isn't cold. This is consequences." Outside, reporters waited with cameras. My family slunk out the back entrance while their lawyers made statements about appealing the decision. Sadie met me at the bottom of the courthouse steps with a coffee. "How do you feel?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. An international number. "Ms. Deborah, this is Marcus from Goldman Sachs. We've been following your case with interest. Would you be interested in consulting for our family wealth management division? We could use someone with your attention to detail." I caught Imran's eye. He nodded slightly. "I'm actually open for business again," I replied. "Let's talk." As we walked to the car, Sadie checked her phone. "Alexis's Instagram followers are dropping by the thousands. Zachariah's startup investors are pulling out. And your parents' country club just revoked their membership." "Karma's not just a concept," Imran commented. "It's a bookkeeper with excellent records." My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Mum. "We never thought you'd go this far." I showed it to Imran, who smiled. "They never thought you'd stand up for yourself at all. That was their biggest mistake." The car pulled away from the courthouse, leaving behind the ruins of what used to be called family. Ahead lay something better: freedom, justice, and the sweet satisfaction of perfectly balanced books. "Where to?" Sadie asked. "Goldman Sachs," I replied. Time to turn this mess into a message. The morning sun streamed through my home office windows as I reviewed the latest headlines over coffee. Financial consultant revolutionizes family wealth management. The Goldman Sachs position had evolved into something bigger, a complete overhaul of how families handle shared finances. My phone buzzed. Sadie was early today. "Turn on Channel 7, she said, without preamble. "Zachariah's sentencing." I flipped on the TV just in time to see my brother being led into court. The reporter's voice was crisp. "Former entrepreneur faces 3 to 5 years for financial fraud." Another buzz. Imran this time. "Have you seen the mail yet?" "Just getting to it." I sorted through the stack on my desk. Court notices, business proposals, and... oh, the foreclosure notices? Yes. 3 identical envelopes. My parents' house, Alexis's condo, Zachariah's startup office. "They're still trying to negotiate," Imran continued. "Your mother's lawyer called again. They're offering partial payment if you'll drop the criminal charges." "Not happening." That's what I told them. A knock at my door interrupted us. Sadie entered, carrying newspapers and a strange expression. "What is it?" "Your father's outside, alone." I considered this. "Send him in." Dad looked smaller than ever, his golf polo hanging loose on his frame. He held a manila envelope. "I found these," he said quietly, pulling out old photographs. "From when you were little." "If this is another guilt trip..." "No." He spread them on my desk. "Look, your 5th birthday. You set up a pretend bank in the backyard, gave everyone little checkbooks made of construction paper." I remembered. I'd even charged interest on my teddy bear's accounts. "You were always good with money," he continued. "We took advantage of that, twisted it, used it against you." "Dad, let me finish." His hands trembled. Your mother still doesn't understand. She's talking about appeal lawyers she can't afford. Alexis is trying to monetize her cancellation story on social media. Zachariah, he shook his head, but I understand now. My phone buzzed again. The Goldman Sachs team with updates on our new family financial literacy program. I ignored it. What do you understand? That we taught you the wrong lessons about love, made it transactional, conditional. He pulled out one final photo. Me at my college graduation, beaming with pride. We should have been proud of who you were, not what you could give us. It's a bit late for that. I know. He stood up. I'm not asking for forgiveness or money. Just wanted you to know that someone in this family finally gets it. After he left, Sadie brought in more mail. The restitution checks are starting to arrive. Alexis sold her designer collection. Your mum's auctioning her jewellery. And the family financial literacy program? Waitlisted 3 months out. Turns out lots of families need help setting healthy boundaries with money. My phone lit up with a news alert. Social media influencer faces tax fraud penalties. Below it, a picture of Alexis leaving the IRS office. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out 4 crisp envelopes. Each contained a check for exactly $1 and a post-it note. Paid in full. Send these, I told Sadie, 1 to each of them. Petty, she grinned. I love it. The TV was still running in the background. They were interviewing a financial psychology expert. The case highlights how money often becomes a substitute for genuine family bonds. I turned it off, looking instead at the photo Dad had left. Little me with my pretend bank. The teddy bears had been better customers than my family. Goldman Sachs is on line 1, Sadie announced. They want to discuss expanding the program internationally. Put them through. I picked up the phone, but my eye caught the last family photo I'd kept. All of us at that dinner where everything changed, where they showed their true colours. Ms. Deborah? The Goldman executive's voice crackled. About the expansion? Yes, I said, turning the photo face down. Let's talk about helping other families avoid our mistakes. Sadie gathered the foreclosure notices, court documents, and restitution checks into neat piles. Want me to send those dollar bills by certified mail? Make them sign for it? No, I smiled. Regular mail is fine. They've signed enough papers. My phone buzzed one last time. A group text from Mum. The country club is auctioning our membership. Please reconsider. I deleted it without responding. Some debts can't be repaid with money. Some lessons need to hurt to be learned. And some families need to be dismantled to be understood. Ready for the Goldman call? Sadie asked. Ready. I straightened my papers. Let's help other families learn what mine never could, that love and money should never share an account.
I never thought my engagement would start with a prenup discussion over Eggs Benedict, but that's exactly how Grant chose to do it. The ring was stunning, a 3-carat diamond that caught the morning light streaming through the cafe windows. But somehow, the stack of legal papers beside it cast a longer shadow. My name is Marin, and I own a chain of boutique laundromats across the city. Not exactly glamorous, but it's honest work that's made me financially independent. Grant always said that's what attracted him to me, my business sense. Now, sitting across from him at our favorite brunch spot, I'm wondering if that's all he ever saw. It's just a formality, sweetheart, Grant said, sliding the papers toward me while adjusting his perfectly knotted tie. Every smart couple does this nowadays. I picked at my hollandaise sauce, buying time. I understand protecting our assets, but an infidelity clause? That seems practical, he finished, flashing that smile that usually melted my reservations. Look, we're both successful people. We need to protect ourselves. The waiter refilled our coffee cups, and I caught him trying not to stare at the papers. Grant waited until he left before continuing, his voice dropping to that soft, persuasive tone he uses in court. My last relationship ended badly, Marin. You know that. I just want us to start with complete trust and transparency. I took a sip of coffee, remembering my mother's words from last week. Sometimes the people most obsessed with trust are the ones you can't trust at all. But Mom tends to see shadows where there aren't any. Her own marriage ended badly 30 years ago. The clause goes both ways, Grant continued, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. If either of us cheats, the other gets everything. It's mutual protection. I studied his face, those warm brown eyes, the slight crease between his brows that appeared whenever he was being serious. We'd been together for 18 months, and he'd never given me reason to doubt him. Still, something felt off. "Can I have my lawyer look it over first?" His hand tightened slightly on mine. "Of course, but I'd love to announce our engagement at the firm's charity gala this weekend. Having this signed would make everything cleaner." The word choice made my stomach turn. Cleaner. Like the stains I help people remove from their clothes every day. Some things never come completely clean, no matter how hard you try. "I'll read it over tonight," I said, forcing a smile. "But yes, I'll marry you, Grant Holloway." His face lit up with genuine joy, or what looked like it, and he slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, which meant he'd planned this meticulously, just like everything else in his life. Later that evening, I called my mother to share the news. Her response wasn't what I expected. "An infidelity clause?" She paused, and I could picture her pacing in her kitchen, twirling the phone cord like she always does when she's worried. "Honey, has he ever mentioned someone named Eliza?" "No," I said, my engagement ring suddenly feeling heavier. "Should he have?" "Maybe not," she replied after a long silence. "Just have your lawyer look at those papers very carefully, and maybe do some digging into his past relationships. Sometimes people who are overly concerned about cheating are projecting their own guilt." I ended the call feeling unsettled. The ring caught the light from my desk lamp, sending tiny rainbows dancing across the prenup papers. Beautiful things often cast unexpected shadows, and I was starting to wonder what shadows Grant might be hiding in his perfectly ordered life. Looking down at the papers, I noticed something odd, a small notation about prior relationship dissolution agreements that seemed out of place. Maybe Mom was right. Maybe I needed to do some digging before I signed anything. After all, in my business, I've learned that the worst stains are often the ones you can't see until it's too late. The smell of my mother's lasagna usually brings comfort, but tonight it's competing with the knot in my stomach. I'm sitting at her kitchen table, watching her methodically layer pasta and sauce while I fidget with my new engagement ring. The diamond catches the light from her antique pendant lamp, throwing sparkles across the worn tablecloth. "You're not eating," Mom says, setting down her wine glass. "And you've been staring at that ring like it might bite you." I force a smile. "Just thinking about the prenup. Did Dad ever ask you to sign one?" Her hands freeze mid-motion, sauce dripping from the spoon. It's the same look she gets whenever anyone mentions my father, like she's seeing a ghost. "No," she says finally. "Your father wasn't that organized, but he had other ways of controlling things." She wipes her hands on her apron and sits across from me. "I found something yesterday after you called about Grant's proposal. I wasn't sure whether to show you, but..." She pulls out an old manila envelope from a kitchen drawer. "What's this? Remember that private investigator friend of mine? Leo Turner?" I nod. Leo used to come around when I was younger, always bringing chocolate and making me laugh with terrible dad jokes. "He did some digging for me back when your father left. I never showed you because, well, you were just 16. But maybe it's time you understood why I'm worried about Grant." Inside the envelope are photographs, dozens of them. My father with another woman, entering hotels, sharing intimate moments. But what catches my eye is a document. A prenuptial agreement with an infidelity clause, nearly identical to the one Grant showed me. "I don't understand," I whisper. "Dad never made you sign a prenup." "No. This was for his second marriage. To Eliza Brooks." The name hits me like a punch to the gut. "Eliza? The same Eliza you asked about?" Mom reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. "Eliza worked at your father's law firm. She was 27 when he left me for her. The same age she is now, working at Grant's firm." My wine glass trembles as I set it down. "You think Grant and Eliza. I think history has a way of repeating itself unless we learn to recognize the patterns." She pulls out another photo, a younger version of herself, standing beside my father at some corporate event. They're both smiling, but there's tension in their poses. "Your father was always paranoid about me cheating. Turns out, he was the one with secrets." The lasagna sits forgotten in its pan as Mom continues. "The day before he left, he accused me of having an affair with Leo. Can you imagine? Leo was helping me gather evidence, and somehow your father twisted that into proof of his own suspicions. I think about Grant's insistence on the prenup, his constant texts checking my whereabouts, the way he tenses up whenever I mention male clients from my business. Have you noticed Grant becoming more protective lately?" Mom asks carefully. I remember last week's charity event, how Grant's hand tightened on my waist when I chatted with his colleague. How he insisted on driving me home instead of letting me take a cab. I should go, I say suddenly, standing up. I need to check something. Mom finishes, understanding in her eyes. Leo's still around, you know. Still terrible at jokes, but excellent at finding answers. As I gather my things, Mom hands me the envelope. Keep these. And Marin, remember that sometimes the people who guard against betrayal the hardest are the ones with the most to hide. Driving home, my phone buzzes with a text from Grant. Where are you? Thought we were having dinner together tonight. I hadn't told him about visiting Mom, just like I hadn't told him about finding a strange earring in his car last week. One that definitely wasn't mine. Another text follows. By the way, did you sign those papers yet? The gala's tomorrow. I think about the prenup sitting and signed on my desk, about Eliza Brooks, about patterns repeating themselves. Maybe it's time to make a call to Leo Turner. After all, some stains need professional help to remove, and I'm starting to suspect there are more secrets in Grant's perfectly pressed life than even he realizes I can see. The anonymous email arrived while I was doing inventory at my flagship store. Ask Grant about the camera in your bedroom. No subject line, no signature. Just those 7 words that made my blood run cold. I almost dropped my tablet, steadying myself against a shelf of lavender-scented dryer sheets. The message couldn't be real. But then I remembered Grant's increasing paranoia, his constant questions about my late nights at work, his insistence on upgrading our home security system last month. My phone buzzed, speaking of the devil. Coming home early tonight. Made dinner reservations at Bellini's. Wear that blue dress I bought you. The blue dress. The one he'd insisted on buying after seeing me talking to my new supplier, Marcus, for too long at a business convention. I texted back a quick, okay, and called Leo Turner instead. Check for cameras, Leo said after I explained the situation. Start with smoke detectors, air vents, and any new electronics. And Marin, don't let on that you know. I waited until Grant texted that he was stuck in a meeting before going home. Our bedroom looked exactly as I'd left it this morning. Perfectly made bed, Grant's ties arranged by color. My jewelry box positioned just so on the dresser. But now everything felt sinister. The new smoke detector caught my eye first. Grant had installed it himself, insisting the old one was outdated. Standing on a chair, I carefully removed the cover. My hands shook as I found the tiny camera lens, nearly invisible unless you knew what to look for. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous email. Check his laptop. Password, Eliza B. 1995. I sat at Grant's desk, my fingers hovering over his keyboard. This was wrong. This was invasion of privacy. This was exactly what he'd done to me. The password worked. His emails loaded, and there it was, dozens of exchanges with Eliza Brooks. Meeting arrangements. Late-night messages. Photos. Running late tonight, darling. Don't wait up. The timestamp showed last Thursday, when Grant told me he was working late on the Morrison case. The front door clicked open downstairs. Marin, are you home early? I quickly closed the laptop, my heart pounding. Just changing for dinner. I called down, trying to keep my voice steady. Grant appeared in the doorway, his smile faltering slightly as he saw me by his desk. Everything okay? Fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just needed to borrow a pen. He crossed the room, placing his hands on my shoulders. From this angle, I could see the smoke detector, the camera pointed directly at us. You seem tense. Work stress. Actually, something weird happened today, I said, watching his reflection in the window. I got this strange email about cameras in our bedroom. Crazy, right? His hands tightened slightly on my shoulders. Probably just spam. You know how hackers are these days. Probably, I agreed, stepping away. Should I wear the blue dress tonight? Perfect choice, he said, but his eyes darted to the smoke detector for just a fraction of a second. At Bellini's, Grant ordered wine and launched into a story about his latest case. I nodded along, noticing how he kept checking his phone under the table. Oh, he said casually. I need those prenup papers signed by tomorrow. The firm's partnership announcement is coming up, and appearances matter. Partnership announcement? I asked, remembering something from his emails. Is that why Eliza's been working such late hours? The wine glass froze halfway to his lips. Eliza Brooks, I said, watching his face carefully. Your new associate? Mom mentioned her. Right, he said, setting down his glass. She's dedicated. Speaking of work, how's Marcus? Haven't seen him around lately. The deflection was smooth, practiced. Just like the way he'd smoothly installed that camera. Just like he'd smoothly convinced me I was imagining things when that earring turned up in his car. My phone buzzed one more time. Another anonymous email. Check the restaurant's security footage from last week. Table 12. Same time, different woman. I looked up at Grant, still talking about Marcus, still trying to direct suspicion away from himself. The diamond ring felt heavy on my finger, like a shackle rather than a promise. Actually, I said, cutting him off mid-sentence, let's talk about the camera in our bedroom. Leo's office hasn't changed in 20 years. Same worn leather chairs, same coffee-stained desk, same stack of case files threatening to topple over. But I've changed, sitting here clutching a USB drive containing footage from Grant's hidden cameras. You need to see this, Leo says, clicking through files on his computer. Your mother was right to be worried. The security footage from Bellini's plays out in grainy black and white. There's Grant at table 12, but instead of Eliza, he's with a woman I've never seen before. Their body language is intimate, familiar. The timestamp shows this was just 3 days after he proposed. There's more, Leo says quietly. Much more. My engagement ring catches the light from his desk lamp, and I twist it absently. Show me. Files appear on screen, bank statements, emails, photos. A pattern emerges. Grant's paranoia about cheating isn't just projection. It's strategy. He's done this before, Leo explains, pulling up marriage records. 3 engagements in the past 5 years. Each time, there was a prenup with an infidelity clause. Each time, he manufactured evidence of cheating. My phone buzzes, Grant asking where I am. I ignore it. The cameras aren't just about watching you, Leo continues. They're about controlling the narrative. If you look closely at the footage from your bedroom, there are subtle edits. He's creating his own evidence. A knock at the office door makes us both jump. It's Mom, carrying a familiar manila envelope. I found something else, she says, laying out more photographs. These are from your father's case, but look at this woman in the background. I lean closer. Behind my father and his mistress stands a much younger Grant Holloway. He worked at the same firm as your father, Mom says. He wasn't just Eliza's colleague, he was her mentor. The same way your father was before. My phone buzzes again. Grant, dinner at home tonight. Important partnership news to discuss. Where's something nice? He's going to try to trap you, Leo warns. The partnership announcement, the prenup deadline, it's all connected. Look at this pattern with his previous fiancées. The evidence is devastating. Each woman signed the prenup, each was accused of cheating, and each lost everything in the aftermath. But something doesn't add up. Why the anonymous emails? I ask. Who's trying to warn me? Leo and Mom exchange glances. We think it's Eliza, Mom says. She's starting to piece things together too. Grant's getting sloppy, probably because he's running both plays at once. My phone lights up with another text. Found something interesting on the bedroom camera. We should talk. He's getting desperate, Leo observes. That's when these types make mistakes. I stand up, gathering the evidence into my bag. Then maybe it's time we use those mistakes against him. Marin, Mom starts, concern etching her face, but I cut her off. I'm not running away like those other women. He wants to play games with hidden cameras and fake evidence? Fine. Let's see how he handles having his own tactics turned against him. Be careful, Leo warns. Men like Grant are most dangerous when they're cornered. I check my phone one last time. 3 missed calls from Grant and a new anonymous email. Don't go home tonight. He knows. But I'm done hiding. Done being manipulated. Done letting history repeat itself. I need copies of everything, I tell Leo. And I need you to get a message to Eliza. Tell her I know about table 12, and I have a proposition for her. Mom touches my arm. What are you planning? I think about the camera in our bedroom, about Grant's careful manipulations, about all the women before me who lost everything. Grant wants evidence of cheating? I say, slipping off my engagement ring. I'm going to give him exactly what he wants, just not the way he expects. My phone buzzes one final time. Grant, where are you? The camera feed is down. I smile, thinking of the short circuit I caused before leaving this morning. Sometimes the best way to deal with a stain is to let it set before applying the right solution. And I've learned a thing or two about removing stubborn stains. The firm's charity gala is in full swing when I spot Eliza across the ballroom. She's wearing red, the same shade as the dress I found hidden in Grant's office closet last week. Our eyes meet, and she gives me the slightest nod. The plan is in motion. Grant's hand tightens on my waist. You seem distracted tonight. Just thinking about the prenup, I say, watching his reflection in the window. I have some questions about the infidelity clause. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. We can discuss that later. The managing partners are about to make their announcement. The ballroom falls quiet as the senior partner takes the stage. I check my phone, a message from Leo. Security footage downloaded. Standing by. Ladies and gentlemen, the partner begins, we're pleased to announce our newest partner track associates. Grant's grip on my waist becomes painful. I notice his other hand clutching his phone, knuckles white. He's waiting for something. First, Grant Holloway, whose dedication to our firm has been exemplary. Applause fills the room. Grant steps forward, all practiced charm and perfect smile. But I see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes keep darting to his phone. And joining him on the partner track, Eliza Brooks. The room spins slightly as everything clicks into place. The red dress. The partnership announcement. The prenup deadline. It's all connected, just not the way Grant planned. Excuse me, I say, stepping away from Grant. Ladies' room. In the elegant bathroom, Eliza is already waiting. Did you bring it? I pull out the USB drive. Everything Leo found, including the security footage from your office last week. The real footage, not Grant's edited version. Her hands shake slightly as she takes it. He's planning to announce our engagement tonight, right after he exposes your affair with Marcus. I know, I say, checking my lipstick in the mirror. That's exactly what we want him to do. My phone buzzes, Grant. Where are you? The announcement is in 5 minutes. Ready? I ask Eliza. She straightens her red dress. Born ready. We return to find Grant at the podium, that familiar confident smile in place. Before we continue celebrating, I have 2 announcements to make. First, he stops, staring at his phone. The edited security footage he planned to show, footage of me supposedly having an affair with Marcus, isn't playing on the big screen behind him. Instead, there's Grant himself, in his office with Eliza, planning how to trap both of us with fake evidence of infidelity. There seems to be a technical difficulty, he says, voice tight. No difficulty, I say loudly, stepping forward. The footage is playing perfectly. Why don't you tell everyone about the infidelity clause in our prenup, Grant? The same clause you used on those other women. The room goes silent. Grant's face darkens. Marin, you're making a scene. Am I? I turn to the crowd. Or am I just showing everyone exactly what they're seeing? A man who manipulates evidence, plants cameras, and tries to trap women in fraudulent prenups. Eliza steps forward, still wearing his ring. The same man who proposed to me last week, promising I was the only one? The managing partners are whispering now. Grant's perfect facade cracks as he realizes his carefully constructed plan is unraveling. You don't understand, he says, reaching for me. I can explain everything. I step back, finally slipping off my engagement ring. Actually, I understand perfectly. You wanted evidence of cheating? Well, congratulations. You just provided it yourself to the entire firm. The footage continues playing, showing Grant's elaborate scheme in his own words. The room erupts in murmurs as he stands there, his career imploding in real time. My phone buzzes one last time. Leo, police have the rest of the evidence. Standing by. I turn to leave, but Grant grabs my arm. You'll regret this, he hisses. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I smile, thinking of all the evidence we've gathered, all the women who've come forward. No, Grant. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And you're about to find out. The police officers entering the ballroom seem to agree. The police interview room feels colder than it should. I've been here for hours, watching my perfect plan unravel like a cheap sweater. Grant's lawyer is better than we expected. Of course he is. He's had practice defending against these exact accusations before. Miss Ellis, Detective Roberts says, sliding another photo across the table. Can you explain why you were accessing Mr. Holloway's private files? My throat tightens. The security camera footage from Grant's office shows me clearly, the timestamp matching exactly when I downloaded the evidence. Evidence that's now being called into question because of how it was obtained. My client, Grant's lawyer interjects smoothly, would like to drop all charges if Miss Ellis signs a non-disclosure agreement. He's being quite generous, considering the damage to his reputation. My phone buzzes in my pocket, probably Leo or Mom, wondering why I haven't answered their calls. But I can't tell them about this meeting. Can't admit how badly I've miscalculated. We have testimony from other women, I say, but my voice sounds weak even to me. Who have all since recanted, the lawyer responds. Fascinating timing, wouldn't you say? The detective pushes another document forward, bank statements showing large deposits to each of Grant's previous fiancés' accounts. All dated yesterday. He's buying them off, I whisper. He's settling potential defamation suits, the lawyer corrects. Just as he's willing to do with you. My hands shake as I read the NDA. The terms are clear. Sign and walk away, or face charges for corporate espionage, illegal surveillance, and defamation. Everything we gathered, every piece of evidence, has been twisted to look like I'm the one who set him up. There's still Eliza, I say, grasping at straws. The detective clears his throat. Miss Brooks provided a statement this morning. She claims you manipulated her into making false accusations against Mr. Holloway out of jealousy. My stomach drops. I remember Eliza's red dress, her seemingly perfect performance at the gala. Had that been real, or just another layer of Grant's manipulation? We found these in your apartment, the detective continues, spreading out photographs. They show me meeting with Leo, with Eliza, with Grant's previous fiancés. All carefully angled to look conspiratorial. Care to explain? I recognize the photography style. The same surveillance techniques Grant used on me, now turned against me. He must have been watching me the entire time. I thought I was investigating him. The camera's in your bedroom, the lawyer adds. Our evidence suggests you installed them yourself, attempting to frame Mr. Holloway. Rather elaborate scheme. My head spins. Every move I made to expose Grant's manipulation has been reconstructed to look like I'm the manipulator. Even the anonymous emails warning me about Grant. They're now being presented as evidence that I was setting up an elaborate hoax. You have 1 hour to decide, the lawyer says, standing. Sign the NDA, or we press charges. Oh, and Miss Ellis? The media would love this story. The jealous ex-fiancé who tried to destroy a prominent lawyer's career? It would be unfortunate if your business suffered from such publicity. They leave me alone with the papers. My phone buzzes again, a text from Mom. Where are you? Leo says something's wrong. Another message pops up, this one from an unknown number. You should have learned from the others. Nobody wins against Grant Holloway. I stare at my reflection in the two-way mirror, wondering if Grant is watching from the other side. Is he smiling that perfect smile, knowing he's turned my own revenge plot against me? The NDA sits there, mocking me. Sign it, and everything disappears, the evidence, the testimonies, the truth. Don't sign, and I lose everything I've built, including my business. Grant wins either way. My phone lights up one last time. It's Eliza. I'm sorry. He gave me no choice. I pick up the pen, its weight feeling like chains. In trying to expose Grant's manipulation, I've walked right into his biggest trap yet. The question isn't whether I'll sign, it's whether I can find another way to fight back after I do. Because one thing's certain, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. The storage room of my flagship laundromat isn't where I expected to have this final conversation with Grant, but there's something fitting about it. This is where I built my business from nothing, where I learned that even the worst stains can be removed with the right approach. Quite the performance at the police station, Grant says, leaning against a shelf of cleaning supplies. Signing that NDA so quickly. I almost felt disappointed. I continue folding sheets, keeping my movement steady. Did you come here to gloat? Actually, I came to return this. He places my engagement ring on top of the fresh linens. And to ask why you kept a copy of everything. The footage, the emails, the bank records, all safely stored with your mother's lawyer. My hands pause briefly. So he found out about that. Insurance, I say, meeting his eyes. Just like those cameras you installed. His perfect smile slips slightly. The NDA only covers the original evidence, I finish. Not the new material that came after. Like the recording of you bribing Eliza. Or the footage from this morning, when you threatened my business. Grant's facade cracks further. You're bluffing. I pull out my phone, playing the video Leo captured of Grant's meeting with Eliza. The audio is crystal clear. Sign this statement or your career is over. Ask Marin what happens to people who cross me. Funny thing about karma, I continue, switching off the video. Sometimes it needs a little help. You really think anyone will believe you? He steps closer, trying to intimidate. I own half the judges in this city. I don't need judges, Grant. I need the truth. And thanks to you, I learned how to package it perfectly. I open my laptop, showing him the website. Pages of testimony from his previous victims, documentation of his schemes, all ready to go live with one click. The NDA prevents me from sharing the evidence, I interrupt. But not them. Every woman you've manipulated, every partner you've threatened, they're all ready to speak. No NDAs binding them. His composure finally shatters. You'll destroy everything. Like you tried to destroy me? I close the laptop. The difference is I'm giving you a choice. What choice? Confess. To the bar association, to your firm, to everyone. Take responsibility for what you've done. Or I release everything, not just about your schemes, but about your past. About what really happened with your father's firm 20 years ago. The color drains from his face. How did you? You're not the only one who knows how to dig up secrets. The difference is I know how to learn from them. He grabs my arm, desperate now. You don't understand what this will do. Actually, I do. I pull away, my voice steady. I understand exactly what it feels like to have someone try to erase you. To twist your reality until you doubt everything. The question is, do you? The fight leaves him suddenly, and for the first time, I see the scared boy behind the perfect lawyer facade. I never meant. He starts, then stops. I just couldn't bear the thought of being betrayed again. So you betrayed everyone first, I finish. But it doesn't have to end that way. I hand him a folder, blank papers, really, but he doesn't need to know that. Your choice, Grant. Make it count. He stares at the folder, then at me. You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? Even signing the NDA was part of it. I learned from the best, I say, turning back to my laundry. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. As he leaves, clutching the folder like a lifeline, I think about all the women before me, about my mother, about Eliza. About how sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone, but forcing them to face their own reflection. My phone buzzes, a text from Leo. He's heading to the firm. Want me to follow? No, I reply. Let him make his choice. Either way, we win. Because sometimes the hardest stains to remove are the ones we leave on ourselves. And Grant Holloway is about to learn that lesson the hard way. 6 months later, I'm sorting through old boxes in Mom's attic when I find the newspaper clipping. Grant's resignation from the firm made headlines, though not for the reasons everyone expected. Instead of a scandal, he left to start a legal advocacy group for victims of domestic manipulation. The irony isn't lost on me. Found something interesting? Mom asks, climbing the attic stairs with 2 cups of tea. Just thinking about karma, I say, accepting the cup. Did you know Eliza's running the advocacy group with him? Mom settles beside me on the dusty floor. Leo mentioned it. Apparently, they're doing good work. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up being the ones who understand how to help others heal. She reaches into her cardigan pocket and pulls out an envelope, yellowed with age. Speaking of healing, I found this last week. It's from your father. My hands shake slightly as I open it. The letter is dated just weeks before his death last year, long after he'd left us for his new life. Dear Marin, it begins. By the time you read this, you'll probably have figured out why I left. The truth is, I was terrified of becoming my father, a man who controlled everything and everyone around him. Instead, I became something worse, a man who ran away from his fears. I saw the same pattern starting with Grant, but I was too much of a coward to warn you. I stop reading, looking at Mom. You knew about this? She nods. Your father called me the night before the gala. He's the one who told me about Grant's history with Eliza, about the pattern of manipulation. He wanted to make things right, in his own way. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to find your own way through it. Just like I did. I think about the last 6 months. Expanding my business, starting support groups at my laundromats for women leaving toxic relationships. Learning to trust my instincts again. My phone buzzes, a text from Leo. Check your email. You're going to want to see this. It's a link to a video of Grant's latest advocacy speech. He's different now, humbler, more genuine. He's talking about patterns of control, about breaking cycles of manipulation, about learning from the people we've hurt. Sometimes, he says in the video, it takes losing everything to find your true reflection. Mom touches my arm. Are you okay? Yeah, I say, surprised to find I mean it. I think I finally understand something about stains. Oh, the hardest ones to remove are the ones we can't see, the patterns we repeat, the trust we break. But once you know they're there, you can't ignore them anymore. She helps me pack up the boxes, pausing when we find my old engagement ring at the bottom of one. What should we do with this? I consider it for a moment, then slip it into my pocket. I'm donating it to Grant's advocacy group. They can sell it to fund their programs. Turning poison into medicine, Mom says approvingly. Later that night, as I'm closing up my flagship store, I spot a familiar face through the window, Eliza, dropping off donations for our shelter program. She waves, and I wave back. We're not friends exactly, but we're something more important. Survivors who learn to break the cycle. My phone buzzes one last time. An anonymous email, but this time I know who it's from. Thank you for forcing me to face my reflection. Gee, I don't respond. Some stains don't need to be removed completely. They just need to be transformed into something that reminds us why we changed. Looking around my empty laundromat, I think about all the people who come here to clean away their past, to start fresh. Maybe that's what revenge really is, not destroying someone, but creating something new from the ashes of what they tried to destroy in you. I lock up and head home, leaving the past where it belongs, cleaned, pressed, and properly stored away. After all, I've got a business to run, lives to help rebuild, and my own story to write. Some stains might never completely fade, but that's okay. They remind us where we've been, and more importantly, why we chose to change.
I never thought my life would implode because of a plain brown envelope. But there it was, sitting innocently on my doorstep when I got home from dropping Oliver at daycare. No return address, just my name, Harper Quinn, typed neatly on the front. I almost tossed it in with the junk mail. My hands were full of grocery bags, and I was already running late for a client consultation. But something about that envelope nagged at me. Maybe it was how precisely my name was centered, or how the paper felt expensive between my fingers. Inside were photos. At first, they didn't make sense, just random shots of downtown Seattle. Then I saw him. My husband Caleb, walking into the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Another shot showed him at their bar, leaning close to a woman with long dark hair. The final photo punched the air from my lungs, Caleb kissing her in the elevator, his hands tangled in that same dark hair. The timestamp showed these were taken just 3 days ago, when he'd told me he was pulling an all-nighter at the office for a product launch. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb, running late tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. Don't wait up. I stared at his message until the screen went dark. The lies felt different now, weighted with proof I couldn't unsee. 2 years of marriage, a beautiful son. And countless late nights at the office started realigning themselves in my mind like puzzle pieces, finally showing the real picture. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lily, still on for coffee tomorrow? You've been MIA lately. I hadn't told anyone about my suspicions. How Caleb's shirts sometimes smelled of unfamiliar perfume. How he'd started keeping his phone face down and taking calls in another room. I'd buried those doubts beneath the routine of caring for Oliver and managing my freelance makeup clients. It was easier to pretend everything was fine. But now, I laid the photos on our kitchen counter, the one Caleb had insisted on upgrading to marble last year. Everything in our house suddenly felt like a prop in some elaborate performance. The family photos on the walls. The matching coffee mugs in the cabinet. Even Oliver's artwork on the fridge seemed to mock me with its bright, innocent colors. My hands shook as I texted Lily back, "Actually, can you come over tonight? Need to talk." Then I called my afternoon client and rescheduled. I couldn't possibly focus on making someone else look beautiful when my own life was crumbling. I spent the next hour going through Caleb's things, looking for what? More evidence? Some explanation that would make this all make sense? In his closet, I found receipts for restaurants I'd never been to, tucked into jacket pockets. A small jewelry box from Tiffany's hidden behind his winter sweaters, definitely not something I'd ever received. The front door opened at exactly 6:15 p.m., right on schedule. "Honey? Why's your car still here?" Caleb's voice carried upstairs, confused but not worried. "Not yet." I looked at myself in our bedroom mirror, smoothing my hair and straightening my shoulders. The woman staring back at me wasn't the same person who'd walked through that door with groceries this morning. That Harper had been naive, trusting. This Harper had evidence scattered across her marriage bed and rage simmering beneath her skin. "Up here," I called out, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "We need to talk about your late nights at the office." His footsteps paused on the stairs. In that moment of silence, I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, crafting explanations and excuses. But I had photos that told the truth, and soon he'd realize that his carefully constructed double life was about to come crashing down. I picked up the envelope and waited for my husband to walk into a conversation that would change everything. The dinner table felt like a minefield. My mother kept glancing at Caleb's empty chair while Dad pushed his pot roast around his plate. Oliver, blissfully unaware of the tension, happily smeared mashed potatoes across his face. Another late meeting? Mom's voice carried that edge I'd grown to hate, the one that said "I told you so" without actually saying it. Product launch, I replied automatically, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. It had been 3 days since I'd found the photos, and I still hadn't confronted Caleb. Each night, he'd come home with perfectly crafted excuses and gentle kisses that felt like betrayal. "You know, Harper," Dad set down his fork, "when your mother and I were starting out." "James," Mom warned, but he continued. "No, Margaret, she needs to hear this. When we were young, I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. But I never missed Sunday dinner. Not once." I focused on wiping Oliver's face, grateful for the distraction. Caleb's company is different. Tech startups are demanding. Too demanding to see his son? Mom's question hung in the air like smoke. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb, "Sorry, babe. Meeting running long. Tell your parents I'm sorry to miss dinner. Kiss Oliver goodnight for me." I showed them the message, watching their expressions darken. The same expressions they'd worn when I'd announced my engagement to Caleb 3 years ago. They'd never said it outright, but they'd seen something in him that I'd been too in love to notice. "I should get Oliver home for bed," I said, standing up. "It's past his bedtime." Mom followed me to the door while Dad got Oliver ready. "Sweetheart, is everything okay? You seem different lately." For a moment, I almost told her everything. About the photos, the lies, the nights I lay awake listening to Caleb shower as soon as he got home, washing away evidence of where he'd been. But telling her would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired." She hugged me tight, and I had to fight back tears. "You know you can always come home, right? You and Oliver both." The drive home was quiet except for Oliver's soft snoring from the backseat. I took the long way, passing by Caleb's office building. His car wasn't in its usual spot, but I hadn't expected it to be. I wondered if he was with her right now, in some expensive hotel room, while I drove our son home alone. When I pulled into our driveway, I noticed a woman standing near our front door. For a wild moment, I thought it might be her, the dark-haired woman from the photos. But as I got closer, I recognized Lily's familiar silhouette. "Surprise," she called out softly, noticing Oliver asleep in my arms. "I brought wine and that terrible reality TV show you love." Inside, after putting Oliver to bed, Lily poured us each a generous glass of red. "Okay, spill. You've been avoiding me for days, and you look like hell." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photos I'd saved. "Someone sent these to me." Lily's sharp intake of breath said everything. She flipped through them slowly, her expression hardening with each swipe. "That son of a bitch." "I don't know what to do," I admitted, the words finally breaking free. "I haven't confronted him yet. I keep waiting for. I don't know what I'm waiting for." "You're waiting for it not to be true," Lily said gently. "But Harper, you need to." The front door opened, and Caleb's voice called out, "Honey? Why are all the lights still on?" Lily and I froze, staring at each other. My phone, with the damning photos still displayed, sat between us on the coffee table. Footsteps approached the living room, and I had to decide, face him now, with Lily as my witness, or continue pretending everything was fine. I reached for my phone just as Caleb walked in, but I wasn't quite fast enough. His eyes caught the image on the screen, and for just a moment, his carefully maintained facade cracked. After Caleb's hasty retreat from the living room that night, I couldn't sleep. His laptop sat on his desk, taunting me. He never logged out, why would he? We'd always trusted each other. Or at least, I'd trusted him. The clock read 3:17 a.m. when I finally sat at his desk. His password was still Oliver's birthday. Some things hadn't changed, even if everything else had. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it, a second email account hidden in his browser history. The username made my stomach turn, cfoster.private@gmail.com. Real creative, Caleb. The inbox loaded, and there she was. Vanessa Reed. Dozens of emails, stretching back months. My hands shook as I clicked the first one. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Date stamped 3 days after Oliver's second birthday party. I kept reading, each message worse than the last. Lunch meetings that turned into hotel afternoons. Weekend business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Plans, promises, declarations of love, all while I was at home, raising our son, believing his lies about late nights at the office. Harper? I jumped. Caleb stood in the doorway, his hair messy from sleep. For a moment, he looked like the man I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, real. Then his eyes fell on the laptop screen. I can explain, he started. Explain what? My voice sounded strange, distant. How you've been sleeping with your coworker since our son turned 2. Or how you took her to Paris last month when you said you were at a tech conference. He stepped forward. It's not what you think. Really? I turned the screen toward him. Because I think it's exactly what these emails show. You and Vanessa planning your little rendezvous while I'm at home, being the perfect wife, the devoted mother. Lower your voice, he hissed. You'll wake Oliver. Oh, now you care about Oliver? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my own. Where was that concern when you were missing his doctor's appointments for your afternoon hookups? His face changed then, hardening into something I didn't recognize. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Vanessa. Yes, it's been going on for months. Because with her, I don't have to pretend to be perfect all the time. She doesn't look at me with disappointment when I work late or miss a family dinner. No, she just looks at you naked in hotel rooms while your wife and child wait at home. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up so quickly the chair crashed backward. You want to talk about fair? I'm going to show you fair. I grabbed my phone and started forwarding the emails to myself. Caleb lunged for the laptop, but I blocked him. Don't, he warned. Think about what you're doing. Think about Oliver. I am thinking about Oliver. I'm thinking about how I'm going to explain to our son why his father is a lying, cheating. A cry from down the hall cut me off. Oliver, awakened by our fighting. We both froze, the sound of our son's distress cutting through the tension like a knife. I'll get him, Caleb said, moving toward the door. No. I stepped in front of him. You don't get to comfort him. Not anymore. As I walked to Oliver's room, I heard Caleb call after me, Harper, please. We can work this out. I'll end it with Vanessa. I'll do whatever you want. I picked up our crying son, holding him close, breathing in his innocent scent. It's okay, baby, I whispered. Mommy's here. Over Oliver's shoulder, I watched Caleb hovering in the doorway, his face a mask of regret and desperation. But all I could see were those emails, those lies, those betrayals playing on repeat in my mind. Pack a bag, I said quietly, still rocking Oliver. I want you gone before we wake up. Harper. And Caleb? I met his eyes, letting him see all the hurt and anger I'd been holding back. Tell Vanessa she can have you. I'm done. Oliver's sobs quieted to hiccups as Caleb's footsteps retreated down the hall. In the darkness of the nursery, I made a silent promise to my son. This wasn't the end of our story, it was just the beginning of a new one. The divorce papers sat untouched on my kitchen counter for 3 days. My lawyer said they were straightforward: a clean break, joint custody of Oliver, division of assets. Simple. Except nothing about destroying a family is simple. Caleb called again, his 4th attempt today. I let it go to voicemail, like all the others. Instead, I focused on Oliver playing with his blocks on the floor, building towers just to knock them down. Each crash made him giggle, completely unaware that his world was falling apart too. The doorbell rang. I checked my phone: no scheduled visits, no deliveries. Through the peephole, I saw Caleb, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. "Harper, please," he called through the door. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I glanced at Oliver, still absorbed in his blocks. "Stay right there, baby," I whispered, stepping onto the porch and closing the door behind me. Caleb looked terrible. His usual pressed shirts and perfect hair replaced by wrinkled clothes and dark circles under his eyes. "You're not answering my calls. I'm busy keeping our son's life as normal as possible. I miss him. I miss you both." He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "We can fix this." I ended things with Vanessa. Completely. I even requested a transfer to a different department. "Did you tell her about Paris?" The words came out sharp, cutting. "About the apartment you were planning to buy there?" I saw the real estate emails, Caleb. You weren't just having an affair, you were building a whole other life. His face paled. Those were just fantasies. I never meant to get caught. I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. You know what the worst part is? I keep thinking about all those nights I apologized to Oliver for you missing bedtime. All those times I defended you to my parents. I made excuses for you while you were planning your escape. It wasn't like that. He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous gesture I used to find endearing. I was lost, Harper. The pressure at work, trying to be the perfect husband and father. I cracked. Vanessa was just convenient? A mistake. His voice cracked. The biggest mistake of my life. But we have history, Harper. We have Oliver. We can get through this. A car pulled into our driveway, Vanessa's sleek BMW. My heart stopped as she stepped out, designer handbag clutched like armor. What is she doing here? I hissed at Caleb. I don't know. He looked genuinely shocked. I swear, Harper, I didn't. Save it. I turned to face Vanessa as she approached, her confidence faltering slightly when she saw my expression. Harper, she started, I know this is inappropriate, but we need to talk. All of us. About what? How you and my husband planned your perfect Parisian life while I changed diapers. No, about, she opened her bag, pulling out an envelope. About this. Inside were more photos, dozens of them. But these weren't of Caleb and Vanessa. They were of Caleb with other women. Different hotels, different cities, different dates. Some from before Vanessa, some after. He's been lying to both of us, Vanessa said quietly. I found these on his work laptop yesterday. There are others. I stared at the photos, each one a fresh betrayal. All those business trips, all those late nights. My hands started shaking. Harper, Caleb stepped toward me, I can explain. The sound of Oliver's laughter drifted through the front door, innocent and pure. Something inside me hardened. No, I said, my voice steady. No more explanations. No more lies. I turned to Vanessa. Thank you for showing me these. You can keep him. Harper, please, Caleb reached for me again. The papers are inside. Sign them by Friday, or I'll make sure every woman you've ever deceived gets their day in court. I opened the front door. And Caleb? Oliver's birthday party is next weekend. Don't come. I walked inside, leaving them both on the porch, and sat down next to my son. He immediately handed me a block, smiling his father's smile. Build, Mommy, he said simply. So I did, helping him create something new from the pieces of our broken world. The fashion show prep room buzzed with nervous energy. Models rushed between makeup stations while designers made last-minute adjustments. This was my first major event since the separation, and my hands trembled slightly as I applied eyeliner to a willowy blonde. Harper? My client list coordinator appeared, tablet in hand. There's been a change. The lead designer wants you to do Vanessa Reed's makeup. She's closing the show. The eyeliner pencil snapped in my grip. I don't work with homewreckers, I said quietly, keeping my voice steady despite the surge of anger. She specifically requested you. Said you're the best in Seattle. He paused, checking his tablet. It would mean a lot of exposure. She's being featured in Vogue next month. Of course she was. Vanessa always landed on her feet, even after our confrontation. The photos she'd revealed about Caleb's other affairs had done nothing to diminish her own role in destroying my marriage. Fine, I said, surprising myself. Send her over. Vanessa appeared minutes later, wearing a silk robe and an uncertain expression. Harper, Sit. I gestured to the chair, already reaching for my brushes. And don't talk. I need to concentrate. She complied, and I began working. Each stroke of the brush was precise, professional. I could make her beautiful, or I could make her look like a circus clown. The power was intoxicating. I left him, she said suddenly, breaking our tense silence. After those photos. I couldn't trust anything he said. My hand stilled. I'm not your therapist. No, but you're the only one who understands. She met my eyes in the mirror. He's seeing someone new already. Did you know? I didn't, and the knowledge hit harder than expected. My brushstrokes became slightly more aggressive. Some junior executive at his company. 25, fresh out of business school. Vanessa winced as I applied the eyeliner with perhaps too much force. He has a type, doesn't he? Women who admire him, look up to him. Until they realize it's all an act. Stop talking. My voice cracked slightly. Just stop. Harper? Lily appeared behind me, concern etched on her face. She'd been helping coordinate the show's logistics. Everything okay here? Fine, I said, adding the final touches to Vanessa's makeup. We're done. You're perfect. Go destroy someone else's life. Vanessa stood, her expression complicated. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just about Caleb. About everything. As she walked away, Lily grabbed my arm. What was that about? And why didn't you tell me she'd be here? I didn't know. I started packing up my supplies, hands shaking. Did you know about Caleb's new girlfriend? Harper. Did you? Lily's silence was answer enough. I pushed past her, needing air, needing space. In the hallway, I bumped into someone, the lead designer. Harper Quinn? Perfect timing. I wanted to discuss using you for our Paris Fashion Week team next month. Paris. Where Caleb and Vanessa had planned their future. Where he was probably taking his new girlfriend now. I need a minute. I rushed toward the exit, ignoring the calls behind me. Outside, the Seattle rain matched my mood. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom, Oliver's having a great time. Don't worry about rushing back. Another buzz. Caleb, can we talk about adjusting the custody schedule? Sarah would like to meet Oliver. Sarah. The new girlfriend had a name. I stared at my reflection in a rain puddle, mascara running down my cheeks. The woman looking back at me seemed foreign, broken, lost. But something else flickered in those eyes. Determination. Rage. Power. My phone buzzed again. The lead designer, Paris offer stands. All expenses paid, 3-week contract. Need answer tonight. I thought about Caleb and his parade of women. About Vanessa and her perfectly made-up face. About Oliver, who deserved a mother he could be proud of. Walking back inside, I found the lead designer. About Paris, I said, my voice stronger than I'd felt in months. I'm in. But I have one condition: I want to do Vanessa's makeup for the entire show. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about rising above, shining brighter, and showing them exactly what they lost. Paris in December wasn't the romantic dream I'd imagined. Rain pelted the hotel windows as I unpacked my makeup supplies, trying to focus on tomorrow's show. 3 weeks of working alongside Vanessa, my own personal version of hell, dressed up as career advancement. My phone lit up with a video call from home. Oliver's face filled the screen, chocolate smeared across his cheeks. Mommy! Look what Sarah made. Sarah. Of course she was there during Caleb's custody time. My stomach clenched as the camera panned to show elaborate Christmas cookies spread across my former kitchen counter. My kitchen. Where that woman now played happy families with my son. They're beautiful, baby, I managed. Are you being good for Daddy? Sarah's teaching me to decorate. His innocent excitement felt like needles in my heart. When are you coming home? Soon, sweetheart. Just 2 more. The call dropped. Typical Paris hotel Wi-Fi. I tried reconnecting, but messages started flooding in instead. Caleb, Oliver's asking for you. Maybe you should reconsider this Paris thing. Mom, he needs stability right now, not a globetrotting mother. Lily, call me ASAP. Caleb's filing for primary custody. The room spun. I grabbed the desk for support, knocking over my makeup case. Brushes and palettes scattered across the floor like my shattered life. A knock at the door. Vanessa stood there, perfect as always in her model pose. Harper? The designer wants to discuss tomorrow's look. Get out. My voice sounded strange, distant. Are you okay? You look like someone who lost everything? I laughed, harsh and broken. While you're here living your dream career, my ex-husband and his new girlfriend are stealing my son. Vanessa stepped inside, closing the door. Caleb's filing for custody? Don't pretend you care. I started picking up scattered makeup brushes, hands shaking. This is what you wanted, right? To destroy my life? I never wanted. Save it. A brush snapped in my grip. You know what's funny? I thought doing your makeup, making you look perfect for these shows, would be my revenge. Show you both what you lost. But you didn't lose anything, did you? You got your career, your freedom. I'm the one who lost everything. Harper, stop. Vanessa grabbed my hands, forcing me to look at her. Caleb doesn't deserve Oliver. Or you. Or any woman. He's a narcissist who collects people like trophies. I learned that too late, but you're stronger than I ever was. I pulled away. Strong? I'm in Paris doing makeup while another woman bakes cookies with my son. No, you're in Paris building your career while Caleb plays house with his latest victim. She picked up my phone, showing me the cookie photo. Look closer. I did. Behind Oliver's smiling face, I saw what she meant. The kitchen I'd loved was now stark white, my colorful curtains gone, my spice rack replaced with modern minimalism. Sarah's influence, erasing me piece by piece. He's doing to her what he did to us, Vanessa said quietly. Creating the perfect life, the perfect woman. Until she stops being perfect. My phone buzzed again. Lily, don't panic. I've called your lawyer. Sarah's history of job hopping and 3 failed engagements won't look good in court. We've got this. Lily. Always fighting in my corner while I ran away to Paris. The show starts in 12 hours, Vanessa said, gathering my scattered supplies. Make me beautiful. Make me perfect. Then we'll talk about how to handle Caleb. I stared at her, this woman I'd hated for so long. Why would you help me? Because I sent those first photos to you. She met my eyes steadily. I knew what he was doing to others, and I chose you to send them to. Because you seemed strong enough to break the cycle. The makeup brush felt different in my hand now. Not a tool for revenge, but for transformation. For both of us. Sit down, I said, my voice stronger. Let's make you unforgettable. Then you can tell me everything you know about Caleb's patterns. Every detail. Sometimes rock bottom isn't an ending. Sometimes it's where you find your strongest allies and your clearest purpose. The courthouse hallway felt endless. My heels clicked against marble as I approached the mediation room, Lily and my lawyer flanking me like guards. Through the glass, I could see Caleb and Sarah already seated, heads bent together in conversation. Remember, my lawyer whispered, stick to the facts. Don't let him provoke you. I nodded, clutching a manila envelope that contained everything Vanessa had given me in Paris, photos, emails, hotel receipts. A paper trail of destruction that led straight to Caleb's perfectly crafted facade. The door opened. Caleb stood, all corporate charm and practiced concern. Harper, you're looking well. Paris agreed with you. Let's skip the small talk. I sat across from him, noting how Sarah's hand tightened possessively on his arm. She looked younger in person, more vulnerable. Just his type. The mediator began with custody arrangements. Caleb's lawyer presented their case for primary custody, citing my unstable work schedule and international travel commitments. My client can provide consistency, he argued. A stable home environment with his fiancée. Fiancé? The word escaped before I could stop it. Sarah's diamond ring caught the fluorescent light, mocking me. Caleb smiled that familiar smile, the one that used to make me feel special, chosen. We were going to announce it this weekend. Oliver's already calling her mommy. The room tilted. Lily's hand found mine under the table as Caleb continued, it's time to be realistic, Harper. Oliver needs to know the truth? I opened the envelope, sliding the first photo across the table. About his father's pattern of manipulation? Caleb's smile faltered. Sarah leaned forward, confusion clouding her features as she studied the image, Caleb with another woman, dated just 2 weeks ago. This is irrelevant, Caleb's lawyer interjected, but I kept going, laying out photo after photo, email after email. 6 women in the past year, I said quietly. Each one thinking they were special, chosen. Each one manipulated into believing they were the only one. I turned to Sarah. Has he taken you to La Petite Maison in Paris yet? It's his favorite spot for proposals. Sarah's face drained of color. Caleb? She's lying, he snapped, but his mask was cracking. These are obviously doctored. The hotel receipts aren't doctored, I continued. Neither are the credit card statements or the burner phone records. Would you like to explain those? The mediator cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take a break. No. Sarah's voice shook. I want to hear this. She picked up one of the photos, studying it. This was last week. You said you were in Vancouver for work. Caleb stood abruptly, chair scraping against floor. This is ridiculous. I won't sit here and listen to these accusations. Sit down, Mr. Foster, the mediator ordered. Or this mediation ends and we move directly to court proceedings. He sat, but his eyes burned into mine. Why are you doing this? Because Oliver deserves better, I said simply. Better than watching you cycle through women, better than learning that lies and manipulation are normal. Better than becoming you. Sarah stood quietly, slipping off her engagement ring. It clinked against the table as she walked out, dignity intact, but shoulders shaking. You've ruined everything, Caleb hissed. No, I corrected him. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure you can't ruin anyone else. I turned to the mediator. I have a custody proposal. Joint legal custody, but Oliver's primary residence stays with me. Mr. Foster can have supervised visitation until he completes therapy and parenting classes. Caleb laughed bitterly. You think this makes you better than me? Destroying my relationship, my reputation? No, Caleb. This makes me different from you. Because unlike you, I'm thinking about Oliver's future, not my revenge. As we left the mediation room, Lily squeezed my hand. You okay? I watched Caleb through the glass, alone now, staring at the evidence of his destructive patterns spread across the table. For the first time, he looked small, ordinary, just a man who couldn't stop breaking things. Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. I really am. 1 year later, I sat in my home office, staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop screen. The blog post was almost finished, my 100th entry about surviving betrayal and rebuilding life after divorce. What had started as therapy had somehow become a lifeline for thousands of women going through similar struggles. A notification popped up, Vanessa Reed liked your post. We'd developed an unexpected friendship since Paris. Bonding over our shared experience and determination to warn others about men like Caleb. Her modeling career had taken off, and she'd become an advocate for women's empowerment in the fashion industry. Oliver's laughter drifted through the open window. He was playing in the backyard with Caleb, their first unsupervised visit since the custody agreement. I watched them from my desk, noting how Caleb had changed. The designer suits were gone, replaced by casual clothes and genuine smiles. Therapy had stripped away his perfect facade, revealing something more human underneath. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, thank you for saving me from making a huge mistake. Getting married next month to someone real. Would love for you to do my makeup for the wedding. I smiled, remembering how she'd reached out months ago, wanting to understand what had happened. We'd met for coffee, two women healing from the same man's manipulation. Her engagement ring now belonged to someone who deserved her trust. Harper? Lily appeared in my doorway, carrying 2 glasses of wine. Your parents just called. They want to know if you're still coming to dinner tonight. Wouldn't miss it. I saved my blog post and closed the laptop. Dad's making his famous pot roast. The same pot roast from that awful dinner when everything started falling apart? The very same. I took a glass from her, remembering that night. Who would have thought that was actually the beginning of everything coming together? Outside, Oliver squealed as Caleb pushed him on the swing. Higher and higher, but not too high, Caleb was learning boundaries, finally understanding that love wasn't about possession or perfection. Your latest post is trending, Lily noted, scrolling through her phone. The one about forgiveness, not meaning reconciliation. It's what everyone struggles with most. I watched Oliver jump from the swing into Caleb's arms. Learning that you can forgive someone while still choosing yourself. The doorbell rang. My date for dinner, a kind-eyed photographer I'd met at Fashion Week. We were taking things slowly, both carrying our own histories, both understanding that trust is earned in small moments rather than grand gestures. "Time to go in," I called out the window. Oliver ran inside, Caleb following more slowly. "Thanks for today," he said, lingering in the doorway. "And for everything else." The therapy recommendations, the second chance with Oliver. "We're both doing better this way," I replied simply. After they left, Oliver for his playdate, Caleb to his own life, my date to reschedule for another time, I returned to my laptop. The cursor still blinked, waiting for me to finish my story. I typed, "Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, building yourself into something stronger than before. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, loving deeply, and letting go of the perfect picture you thought your life would be." Lily read over my shoulder. "That's it? That's how you're ending it?" "No," I said, adding one final line, "because the end of one story is just the beginning of another. And this time, I'm writing my own." I hit publish and stood up, ready for dinner with my parents. Ready for whatever came next. The manila envelope of Caleb's indiscretions still sat in my desk drawer, untouched for months. I didn't need it anymore. Its purpose had been served, not just in saving me, but in saving others too. Outside, the sunset painted Seattle in shades of possibility. My phone buzzed with notifications as the blog post went live. Each one representing someone else finding their way through darkness toward something real. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about getting everything you wanted, but about discovering what you actually needed. And sometimes, just sometimes, those two things turn out to be completely different stories.
I never expected my daughter to show up at my doorstep married. Not on a Tuesday night, not after a double shift that left my feet screaming, and definitely not to a man I'd only met twice. My name is Maggie, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my daughter Lily. 24 years of being her only parent had given me that confidence. But there she stood on my porch, her hand intertwined with Jake's, both of them wearing matching nervous smiles and gold bands that caught the porch light. "Surprise, Mom." Lily's voice cracked with forced cheerfulness. "We did it." I gripped my purse strapped tighter, the vinyl creaking under my fingers. The smell of grease from the diner still clung to my uniform, and suddenly I felt every one of my 52 years weighing me down. "Did what exactly?" I managed to ask, though I already knew the answer. Jake stepped forward, all charm and perfect teeth. "We got married, Mrs. O'Hara. This morning, actually." He wrapped his arm around Lily's waist. "We wanted it to be spontaneous, romantic." "Romantic," I echoed, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. Through the fog of exhaustion, memories of another impulsive marriage, my own, flashed through my mind. "Come inside, both of you." My small living room felt even smaller with 3 people in it. Jake settled onto my couch like he belonged there, while Lily perched on the armrest beside him, her legs bouncing with nervous energy. "Mom, I know what you're thinking," Lily started. "Do you?" I set my purse down carefully, buying time to steady my voice. "Because I'm thinking about how you've known Jake for 4 months. 5, Jake corrected, as if that extra month made all the difference. 5 months, I said. "And neither of you has a steady job, or a place to live, or—" "Actually," Lily interrupted, her eyes lighting up with that familiar determination I'd seen since she was little. "We were hoping we could stay here. Just until we get on our feet." The ceiling fan whirred above us, pushing around stale air. I noticed Jake's eyes darting around the room, taking in the worn furniture, the faded wallpaper I'd been meaning to replace for years. Something in his gaze made my skin prickle. "Of course you can stay," I heard myself say, because what choice did I have? "The spare room needs clearing out, but—" "Thank you, Mrs. O'Hara," Jake cut in, standing up smoothly. "We really appreciate this. I promise we won't be a burden." There was something practiced about his gratitude, like a sales pitch he'd given before. But Lily was beaming at him like he'd just promised her the moon, and I swallowed my unease. "I need to shower," I said, retreating toward the hallway. "We can talk more over dinner." "Oh, we already ate," Lily called after me. "But Jake can bring our bags in while you clean up." In the bathroom, I turned the water as hot as I could stand it. Through the thin walls, I heard them whispering, followed by the front door opening and closing. My reflection in the steamy mirror looked haunted. The last time I'd seen that look on my face was 25 years ago, when I'd made my own impulsive decision that changed everything. But this was different, I told myself. Lily was smarter than I had been. Jake seemed nice enough. So why couldn't I shake this feeling that I'd just invited a fox into my henhouse? As I stepped into the shower, I heard them moving around in the spare room, their muffled laughter floating through the walls. My daughter was married. To a stranger. And now they were both living under my roof. I closed my eyes and let the water drum against my face, wondering how long it would take before I discovered exactly what kind of man my new son-in-law really was. It's amazing how quickly a house can change. After just 1 week of Lily and Jake living with me, my quiet sanctuary felt like a pressure cooker about to blow. I was washing dishes when I heard them arguing in the spare room again. Their voices carried through the thin walls, muffled but tense. These spats had become more frequent, always about money, always ending with Lily in tears and Jake storming out. The front door slammed right on cue. I dried my hands and waited, counting down in my head. 3, 2, 1. Mom. Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes red-rimmed. Do you have any aspirin? Top cabinet, left side. I watched her reach for the bottle, noticing how her wedding ring caught the afternoon light. Want to talk about it? It's nothing. She swallowed 2 pills dry. Jake's just stressed about job hunting. I bit back the urge to point out that Jake spent more time networking at bars than actually looking for work. Instead, I asked, how about we grab lunch? My treat. Can't. Jake's taking the car to meet some business contact. She slumped against the counter. He thinks this guy might have an opportunity for him. Another opportunity. Last week it was cryptocurrency. The week before that, some multi-level marketing scheme involving essential oils. The mail slot clattered, and I welcomed the excuse to step away. Bills, junk mail, and a thick envelope addressed to Jake Turner. It had fallen open slightly, revealing what looked like bank statements. My stomach twisted as I caught a glimpse of red numbers. Lily, honey? I called out, keeping my voice steady. Could you come here? But when I turned around, it wasn't Lily standing there. It was Jake. He must have come back through the side door. I'll take those. He snatched the mail from my hands, his charm nowhere in sight. Wouldn't want you troubling yourself with our personal matters. This is my house, I said, surprising myself with how firm my voice sounded. If there are financial issues, there aren't. His smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Everything's under control. I just need a little time to get things sorted. Jake. Lily appeared behind him. I thought you left. Forgot my phone. He kissed her cheek, tucking the mail into his back pocket. Don't wait up, babe. This meeting might run late. After he left, Lily helped me prepare dinner, chattering about Jake's potential business ventures like a kid talking about Santa Claus. I nodded along, but my mind kept returning to those red numbers. That evening, my friend Carla called. How's married life treating you? She asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I think Jake's in trouble, Carla. I lowered my voice, though I was alone in my bedroom. Deep trouble. What kind of trouble? I don't know yet. But something's not right. I described the mysterious meetings, the arguments, the glimpse of those bank statements. Want me to run a background check? As a real estate agent, Carla had connections. Just to be safe? I hesitated. It felt like a betrayal, but the memory of Jake's cold eyes when he grabbed that mail haunted me. Give me his full name and date of birth if you can get it, she said. I'll be discreet. After hanging up, I heard the front door open. Jake's voice drifted up the stairs, followed by Lily's excited squeal. I crept to the landing and listened. It's perfect, babe, he was saying. Once we get the loan, we can start fresh. No more living under mommy's roof. But how? Lily asked. We don't have any collateral. Don't worry about that. Jake's voice dropped lower, but I caught his next words clearly. Your mom's house is worth way more than we need. I gripped the banister, my knuckles turning white. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about protecting my daughter anymore. I was fighting for everything I'd spent my life building. And Jake Turner had just declared war. Carla's text came at 3 in the morning. Check your email. Now. I sat up in bed, fumbling for my reading glasses. The bright screen made my eyes water as I opened the attachment. What I saw made my stomach drop. Jake Turner wasn't even his real name. I scrolled through page after page of court records, bankruptcy filings, and restraining orders. James Thomas Kelly had quite the history. 3 ex-wives, all of whom he'd financially ruined. The pattern was always the same: marriage, joint accounts, forged documents, emptied savings. Then he'd vanish, only to resurface in another state with a new name and a new target. My hands were shaking as I got dressed. The pre-dawn air felt electric as I paced my kitchen, waiting for Carla to arrive. When headlights swept across my window, I nearly jumped out of my skin. "You look like hell," Carla said, stepping inside. She carried a thick manila folder. "There's more. Worse than 3 previous wives? He's got warrants in 2 states." She spread the documents across my kitchen table. "And look at this, he's already filed paperwork to add his name to your deed." "That's impossible." But there it was in black and white, a half-completed application with my forged signature. I never signed anything. "Keep looking." Buried in the stack was a loan application. My house was listed as collateral for $250,000. The signature looked exactly like mine. "He must have practiced," I whispered, touching the forgery. "All those times he was job hunting, he was practicing my signature." A floorboard creaked upstairs. We froze, staring at each other as footsteps approached the stairs. "Mom," Lily called out. "Why are you up so early?" Carla and I scrambled to gather the papers. I shoved them into the folder just as Lily appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her bathrobe. "Carla," Lily blinked in confusion. "What's going on?" "Just some real estate stuff," Carla lied smoothly. "Your mom's thinking about refinancing." At 3 in the morning, before I could answer, the side door opened. James, whatever his name was, stepped in from the garage. He wore a suit I'd never seen before, looking fresh despite the early hour. "Ladies," he said, his smile never wavering. "Having a party without me?" My skin crawled at how easily he could lie, how natural that charm seemed even now. I clutched the folder tighter. "Just catching up," I said, matching his casual tone. "You're out early." "Another meeting." He kissed Lily's cheek. "Actually, I need to talk to you about something, Maggie." "Got a minute?" "I should go," Carla announced, but her eyes met mine with clear warning. "Don't let him know what you know." After Carla left, Lily drifted back upstairs to shower. Jake sat across from me at the kitchen table, exactly where those damning documents had been spread moments ago. "I've been thinking," he began, "about how to thank you for your hospitality." "Oh, I want to help with the mortgage." "In fact," he reached into his jacket, "I've got some papers that could really ease your financial burden." He pulled out a document identical to the one I'd just seen. My stomach lurched. "Just need your signature," he said, sliding it across the table. "Then we can really be family." I stared at the paper, at his manicured hands, at the wedding ring that probably wasn't his first. Or second. Or third. "I'll need to think about it," I heard myself say. Something dark flickered behind his eyes, just for a moment. "Of course. Take your time." He stood, straightening his tie. "But not too long. Opportunities like this don't last forever." The threat in his voice was subtle but clear. As he headed upstairs to join Lily, I pulled out my phone and typed a quick text to Carla. "He's making his move. What do we do?" Her response came seconds later. "We fight back. But first, we need to tell Lily the truth." I closed my eyes, remembering the adoring way my daughter looked at her husband. This would destroy her. But if I didn't act soon, he would destroy us all. The folder of evidence felt like it was burning a hole in my purse as I walked to my neighbor Tom's house. I needed someone outside this mess to tell me if I was crazy, if I was overreacting. Most of all, I needed someone who wouldn't judge me for what I was about to do. Tom was watering his roses when I approached. He took one look at my face and turned off the hose. "Coffee?" he asked, already heading toward his door. Inside his kitchen, everything was neat and organized, the opposite of the chaos my life had become. Tom set 2 mugs on the counter and waited while I spread out James's documentation across his table. "Jesus," he whispered, examining the forged signatures. "And Lily has no idea? She's in love." The words tasted bitter. "Or thinks she is." Have you gone to the police? I shook my head. The moment I do that, I lose her. You don't know Lily, she'll see it as a betrayal. She'll run away with him. Tom studied the restraining orders from Jake's previous wives. Maybe that's better than letting him steal everything you've worked for. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Carla, 911. Jake at bank right now. Trying to process loan. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Tom read the message over my shoulder. Go, he said. I'll clean this up and bring the documents to your house. I broke every speed limit getting to the bank. Through the glass doors, I could see Jake at a desk with a loan officer, wearing that same perfect suit, that same perfect smile. My entrance must have looked wild because several heads turned. This man is committing fraud, I announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. Jake's smile flickered but didn't fade. Maggie, he said smoothly, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I'm just helping with your refinancing, remember? We discussed this. The loan officer looked between us, confused. Mrs. O'Hara? You did sign these documents, correct? Those signatures are forged. My voice shook. And this man isn't Jake Turner. His real name is James Kelly, and he's wanted in 2 states. The room went silent. Jake's facade cracked for just a moment, showing something dark and dangerous underneath. Then my phone rang Lily's ringtone. Mom. She was crying. Why is Tom here with a bunch of papers about Jake? What are you doing? Jake stood up, straightening his tie. I should go check on my wife, he said to the loan officer. She sounds upset. Don't you dare. I stepped between him and the door. Don't you go near her. Or what? He leaned in close, whispering so only I could hear. You'll lose her anyway. At least my way. She gets to keep her illusions about love. The loan officer was on the phone, presumably with security. Jake used the distraction to slip past me, but I grabbed his arm. You want to play it this way? He hissed. Fine. But remember, I'm the one she trusts. I'm the one she'll believe. And by the time she realizes the truth, it'll be too late for both of you. He yanked free and walked out, leaving me standing there with my evidence and my fury. My phone kept ringing Lily, then Carla, then Lily again. The loan officer approached cautiously. Mrs. O'Hara? We'll need to file a report. But I was already moving. Because Jake was right about one thing, Lily would believe him. Unless I dialed a number I'd been staring at for days. Angela Kelly, Jake's first wife. Hello. A tired voice answered. My name is Maggie O'Hara, I said, walking to my car. And I think we need to talk about James Kelly. There was a long pause. Then, is he using the name Jake Turner? Yes. Get your daughter and get out of there, she said. No. Before he does what he did to me. I started the engine, my mind racing. I can't leave. This is my house, my life. Then you better be ready for war, Angela replied. Because that's exactly what you're in for. As I drove home, I realized she was right. This wasn't just about protecting my daughter anymore. This was about stopping a predator before he could hurt anyone else. And I was done playing nice. Angela Kelly's words haunted me as I pulled into my driveway. The house was dark except for the kitchen light, where I could see Jake and Lily's silhouettes through the window. They were arguing again. I sat in my car watching them. Jake's gestures were controlled, reasonable, while Lily's grew more frantic. Classic manipulation. I'd seen it before, lived it before, but never from this side of the glass. My phone lit up with a text from Angela. Meeting arranged with Sarah and Michelle tomorrow. Jake's wives number 2 and number 3. Bringing proof. I typed back, how did you survive it? I didn't. Not really. Still paying off the debts he left me with. The kitchen door slammed. Lily stormed out, mascara streaking her cheeks. She spotted my car and froze, then turned and ran toward the backyard. Jake appeared in the doorway, watching her go. When he noticed me, he smiled and waved, like we were neighbors sharing a pleasant evening. I got out of my car, clutching my purse with its damning evidence. Where's she going? Just needs to cool off. He leaned against the doorframe. You know how emotional she gets. Like her mother. The casual cruelty in his voice made my fingers itch. What did you say to her? Actually, we were discussing you. His smile turned sharp. About how your paranoia is tearing this family apart. How you can't let her grow up, be happy. Happy. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet night. Like your other wives were happy? His expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Careful, Magje. Some might call that slander. Some might call forging signatures and stealing homes fraud. Prove it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. But ask yourself what happens to Lily when you do. When she realizes her mother destroyed her marriage. When everyone sees how you drove away the only man who ever loved her. You don't love her. No, he agreed easily. But she believes I do. And that's what matters, isn't it? A noise made us both turn. Lily stood at the corner of the house, her face pale in the porch light. How much had she heard? Mom. Her voice cracked. What's going on? Jake moved first, reaching for her. Your mother's upset, baby. She's been imagining things. Don't touch her. The words came out like a growl. Mom, stop it. Lily pulled away from both of us. This is exactly what I was telling Jake. You're trying to control everything, just like always. Lily, please. No, I'm not a child anymore. I love Jake and he loves me, and you need to accept that or... She swallowed hard. Or maybe we shouldn't be here at all. Jake's arms slid around her shoulders, comforting and possessive. Maybe that's best, sweetheart. We could leave tonight, start fresh somewhere else. My blood ran cold. This was his play. Isolate her, take her away, then bleed her dry like all the others. I couldn't let that happen. But if I showed my evidence now, she'd run straight into his trap. No one's leaving tonight, I said, forcing my voice steady. It's late. We're all tired. Let's talk in the morning. Jake's eyes narrowed, suspicious of my sudden calm. Good. Let him wonder what I was planning. Fine, Lily muttered, pulling away from Jake. But this conversation isn't over. I watched them go inside, my daughter leaning on the shoulder of a predator. My phone buzzed again, another text from Angela. Got the police reports ready. Meeting set for 10 a.m. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow I'd have 3 of Jake's ex-wives, all their evidence, and one chance to save my daughter without losing her forever. But tonight, I looked up at my bedroom window, where a shadow moved against the light. Tonight, I had to share my roof with a man who'd destroyed 3 families before ours. A man who was probably already planning his escape route. Game on, James Kelly, I whispered to the night air. Let's see who breaks first. The coffee shop felt too bright, too normal for what was about to happen. Angela Kelly sat across from me, her hands wrapped around an untouched latte. Sarah and Michelle flanked her, 3 women united by the same betrayal. 3 versions of my daughter's future if I didn't stop this. He's getting sloppy, Sarah said, spreading photos across the table. Used to wait at least a year before trying for the house. With you, it's been what? 2 months. He's desperate, Michelle added. Lost everything in the last scam. A bell chimed. Lily walked in, her face hardening when she saw me. Jake wasn't with her, small mercies. What is this? She stopped at our table, arms crossed. Another intervention? Sit down, I said quietly. Please. These women, Lily started, are Jake's wives, Angela cut in. Or rather, James Kelly's wives. Lily's face went pale, but she lifted her chin. You're lying. Marriage certificate, Sarah laid it out. Divorce papers. Police reports. Bank statements, Michelle added. Forged documents. Sound familiar. Lily's hands trembled as she picked up a photo. Jake with Angela, both younger, smiling at their wedding. The same smile he'd given her. This is... She swallowed hard. This can't be. The coffee shop door chimed again. Jake stood there, taking in the scene with calculated precision. His eyes locked with mine, and for a moment, I saw the mask slip completely. Quite the reunion, he said, walking over. Angela. Sarah. Michelle. You all look, well, exactly how I left you. Jake. Lily's voice cracked. What are they talking about? He sighed, pulling up a chair. It's complicated, baby. These women, they're from a dark time in my life. I was going to tell you. Like hell you were, Angela snapped. You were going to drain her accounts and disappear, just like you did to us. Is that true? Lily turned to him. The loan applications Mom found. The forged signatures. Jake's face softened with practiced concern. Your mother's been poisoning you against me from day one. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I have a past. But what we have is different. Different. Michelle laughed bitterly. That's what he told all of us. Lily, I reached for her hand. Look at the evidence. Look at what he's done. But Jake was faster. He grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her close. We can start fresh. Right now. Leave all this behind. I love you. Isn't that what matters? Don't touch her. I stood up, but Jake's next words froze me. Tell them about the baby, Lily. The world stopped. Lily's hand drifted to her stomach, tears streaming down her face. I'm 6 weeks, she whispered. Jake's triumphant smile told me everything. He'd won. No matter what evidence we had, no matter what truths we revealed, he'd ensured his connection to our family was permanent. Congratulations, he said to me, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. You're going to be a grandmother. Lily pulled away from all of us, backing toward the door. I can't. She ran. Jake moved to follow, but Angela blocked his path. Let her process, he said smoothly. Maggie, you've done enough damage for one day, don't you think? I watched my daughter disappear into the parking lot, my chest tight with panic. Jake gathered his coat, every movement deliberate. By the way, he paused at my shoulder. I filed those loan papers this morning. Turns out your signature's already on them. Funny how that works. He walked out, leaving me with 3 broken women and a pile of useless evidence. He always has a backup plan, Sarah said softly. Always finds a way to make you doubt yourself. My phone buzzed, a text from Lily. Don't follow me. I need time. I sank back into my chair, the weight of failure crushing me. I'd tried to protect my daughter, but instead, I'd pushed her further into Jake's arms. Now he had everything, my daughter, my future grandchild, and soon my home. What do? I asked the women who'd lived this nightmare before me. Angela reached across the table, gripping my hand. We fight. Harder than before. Because now it's not just about Lily anymore. 3 days of silence from Lily felt like 3 years. I'd worn a path in my kitchen floor from pacing when Tom knocked on my door that rainy evening. She's at my house, he said without preamble. She needs you. I found Lily curled up on Tom's couch, a stack of papers clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red, but clearer than I'd seen them in months. He emptied our account, she said as I sat beside her. Every penny of my savings. And I found these in his car. She handed me the papers. Loan documents, bank statements, a half-dozen driver's licenses with Jake's photo but different names. And ultrasound photos, not hers, but dated years ago, with another woman's name. He's used the pregnancy story before, she whispered. I'm not. I was never. The front door opened. Jake stood there, rain dripping from his expensive suit. Tom moved to block his path, but Jake just smiled. Family meeting? He stepped inside. How convenient. I have the final loan papers right here. Just need those signatures, Maggie, and we can all move forward. There's nothing to move forward to. Lily stood up, shaking. I know about the other pregnancies. The other wives. The other scams. Something dangerous flickered across Jake's face. Baby, you're confused. Your mother's gotten in your head. Stop. Lily's voice cracked. Just stop lying. Everything I did was for us. He switched tactics, his tone softening. Yes, I made mistakes. But the money's real now. 1 signature and we're set for life. Using my mother's house as collateral? Lily laughed bitterly. Like you used Angela's? And Sarah's? And Michelle's. Jake's charm vanished. You ungrateful little. He lunged forward. I moved without thinking, putting myself between them. Touch her and it's assault charges on top of the fraud. Fraud. His laugh was ugly. Your signature's already on those papers, remember? Good luck proving otherwise. Actually, Tom spoke up, holding up his phone. I think this conversation will help with that. Jake's eyes widened as he realized he was being recorded. He backed toward the door, calculations running behind his eyes. You really want to do this? He snarled. Fine. But remember, I've got nothing left to lose. You really think this ends here? No, I said quietly. It ends at the police station. Angela, Sarah, and Michelle are there right now, filing charges. All they needed was one more victim to establish a pattern. And proof of intent, Lily added, her voice stronger now. Like this conversation. Jake's hand twitched toward his pocket, his car keys. But Tom was faster, blocking the door. Move, Jake growled. Make me. The punch was swift, but Tom was ready. They grappled, crashing into the coffee table. I grabbed Lily, pulling her back as Jake broke free and bolted for the door. He made it 3 steps into the rain before police lights flooded the street. Perfect timing, Carla, I whispered, watching my friend step out of her car, where she'd been waiting with her phone ready to make the call. Jake tried to run, but slipped on the wet grass. As the officers approached, he looked back at us, at Lily specifically, one last time. I did love you, he said. In my way. Lily stepped forward, out of my protective grip. No. You loved what you thought you could take from me. There's a difference. We watched them put him in the police car. Lily leaned against me, her body shaking with sobs or laughter. Maybe both. Mom, she whispered. I'm sorry. For not trusting you. For not seeing. Sure. I held her closer. You saw it when it mattered. Tom came up beside us, sporting what would become an impressive black eye. Let's get you both inside. I think this calls for something stronger than coffee. As we turned to go in, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in Tom's window, mother and daughter, battered but unbroken. Jake had tried to tear us apart, but in the end, he'd only proved what I'd known all along. Our bond was stronger than any con man's game. The rain washed away Jake's tire tracks as the police car disappeared around the corner, taking with it all his false promises and paper dreams. 6 months after Jake's arrest, I found myself back at the same coffee shop where everything had fallen apart. This time, I sat across from Angela, Sarah, and Michelle, watching them pass around photos of Jake's sentencing. 10 years, Angela said, sliding the envelope across the table. Plus restitution to all of us. Small comfort, Michelle added, stirring her coffee. But better than nothing. The bell chimed, and Lily walked in. She looked different now, stronger, more herself. The shadows under her eyes had faded, replaced by a quiet determination I recognized from my own mirror. Sorry I'm late, she said, pulling up a chair. The support group ran long. She'd been attending meetings with other fraud victims, turning her pain into purpose. Sometimes she came home angry, sometimes in tears, but always moving forward. How's the house hunting going? Sarah asked. Found a small apartment, Lily smiled. Mom's helping with the deposit. Speaking of help, Angela pulled out some papers. The settlement money came through. We thought, maybe, we could do something good with it. The proposal laid out a foundation, a network to help other victims of romance fraud. Legal support, counseling, emergency funds. All the things we'd wished we'd had. We need someone to run it, Michelle said, looking at Lily. Someone who understands both sides of the story. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she read the details. I don't know if I'm qualified. You are, I said quietly. Because you found the strength to walk away. The coffee shop door opened again. Tom walked in, his black eye long-heeled. He'd been coming around more often lately, bringing dinner or fixing things around the house. Neither of us had put a name to it yet, but something was growing there, slow and careful. Ladies, he nodded to the group. Mind if I steal Maggie for a minute? Outside, the spring air carried the scent of new beginnings. Tom handed me an envelope. It came today, he said. Thought you'd want to see it. Inside was a letter from Jake, postmarked from prison. My hands shook as I read. Maggie, I've had time to think. About patterns, choices, the lies we tell ourselves. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I want you to know you were right. About everything. Especially about Lily. Take care of her. She's lucky to have a mother who sees clearly what love really means. James. You okay? Tom asked. I looked through the window at Lily, animated now as she discussed plans for the foundation. At Angela, Sarah, and Michelle, who'd turned their pain into purpose. At my own reflection, no longer haunted by fear. You know what's strange? I folded the letter carefully. I thought catching him would feel like victory. But this, watching Lily heal, seeing these women support each other, this feels more like justice. Tom's hand found mine. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. Mom. Lily appeared in the doorway. We need your input on something. Inside, The women had spread out budget proposals and outreach plans. They were building something new from the ashes of their shared trauma. "We're thinking of calling it Clearsight," Lily explained. "Because that's what saved us all in the end. Being able to see through the lies, see what really matters." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The naive girl who'd shown up married on my doorstep was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd faced her mistakes and chosen to grow from them. "What do you think?" she asked. I squeezed her hand. "It's exactly what we need." As we worked into the evening, planning and dreaming, I realized something. Jake had tried to destroy us, but he'd accidentally created something stronger. A network of women who refused to be victims, a daughter who'd found her purpose, and a mother who'd learned that protection sometimes means letting go. The coffee shop lights dimmed, signaling closing time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories, new women needing help. But for now, in this moment, we were exactly where we needed to be. Clear-sighted, at last.